Happy Monday. I can't believe I strung those two words together because it is Monday, July the 17th, 2023. It's George Brauchler with the George Show right here on 710 KNUS. Weather today, if you didn't hear the top of the hour. Now, listen, I've heard all of these stories about Denverites bracing for 100-degree weather and all this other stuff. Don't see it. I don't see it. The Denver 7 folks have put out their prognostications on the weather, and they have today at 98. Now, could it get to 100? Sure. I mean, they're just guessing, just like you and I are. Tomorrow, 96. And then after that, it kind of goes downhill a bit. It goes 90, 88, 80. That's Wednesday through Friday with a cloud with lightning bolts shooting out of it. That doesn't look good. And then even Saturday and Sunday, when it climbs back up to 91, more clouds with lightning bolts shooting out of it. It is just the temperature here. Billy and I talked a little off air about the temperature in Florida and how the water around Florida apparently is hot tub temperature for the folks going out there. There's a lot of bad to that, maybe some good. I don't know what the answer is to that, but 98 degrees today is going to be the hot. Now, Big Daddy here flies out to go to a place called Houston, which I can only imagine is also going to be very temperate, very moderate, very easy to deal with. I have brought some clothes that you can wring out. They're made out of that chamois stuff, whatever it is that you use to wipe off your car, you just wring it out. But I got to go do that later on. I will not be on the air tomorrow because the work that I'm doing requires me to be doing something else at this time. So do you know yet, Billy, who's going to fill in for this guy?
Yes, I do.
You want
me to answer?
Oh, is it a secret? I didn't know. I didn't know if it was like, surprise.
No, sorry. I was just being an a-hole there. Sorry about that. Mr. Peter Boyles will be in tomorrow morning.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
I wish I could even listen in, man. I want to hear the Petester do his thing. Yeah, it'll be good to have Pete back in the saddle. Although I did not ask him last time I saw him last week what it's like not getting up at like 2 a.m. or whatever the hell it is he used to do with you.
The thing is he still does.
He
gets
wrong.
up way
it's
too
wrong.
early. Yeah. He's easily up by 5 o'clock every morning, easily. Yeah.
Guy's in the best shape for his age of anybody I know,
is.
but I wonder how much better shape he could be in if he slept.
I know, that's what I was thinking too.
That is awful. So Pete Boyles in tomorrow. Big weekend here. Billy, how was the Taylor Swift concert?
Well, I had a friend that hung out outside. I had more than quite a number of people that I knew got tickets and stuff. And I'm like, wow.
Really?
Yeah, I knew
and
one
they kept them. They didn't sell them and pay for college or a car?
No, and a lot of it was, taking the daughters and stuff like that. And so that was kind of neat to see some family. My cousin, his wife, and 2 daughters went, which is really cool. I had a friend that actually ended up getting tickets because it was husband and wife wanted to go, and the husband didn't want to go. So she asked her and as a friend, and they had ridiculously good seats. Like first 15 rows kind of a thing.
Oh my goodness.
So that was kind of neat.
And national debt right there.
Exactly. And a buddy of mine went down and actually hung out in the crowd outside just for that experience.
You showed me that video, and it was just a sea of humanity, and this led to a couple different conversations. It was a sea of female humanity. Like the number of dudes that were there greatly outnumbered.
Oh yeah.
Like this is the future I see, right? Like this is what the world's going to look like in about 10 years.
Yeah. The other thing was that I guess when Taylor arrived on Friday, when she got into town, one of the first things she did is write a giant check to Food Bank of the Rockies.
I saw that.
Yeah. That'll feed 75,000 people.
That's freaking awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. And she's getting a tax break for it. Understood. And that's part of the reason that she's doing it. However, I just want to say that at least she's doing this and getting the tax break for donating to charity rather than someone saying, hey, I'd like to pay less taxes. Let me open my own LLC in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah,
so again,
I'd like that.
Yeah, I know. But the idea is
I just want to visit.
Yeah. The idea that people go, oh my God, she's doing this for a tax break. Yes, I understand it's a tax break. She's also, though, finding a way to do good at the same time. And so I will tip my cap to her and say, thank you for doing that rather than just finding a way so that you can keep all the monies and do that Scrooge McDuck swimming thing through the vault. I appreciate that. So that was kind of cool. Also, our government is actually looking at the economic impact of Taylor Swift concerts.
Common Sense Institute actually did a report on that.
Yeah, and they're saying things like they were looking at things like Philadelphia And at Philadelphia, their hotel rates and the reservations, the occupancy was the highest it had been in a couple of years.
Oh my goodness.
And it's reaching a peak. And so they're saying that, and they're seeing
Swiftonomics.
this, and they're seeing as she's going around the country, they're seeing increase hotel residency. They're seeing people flying in. They're seeing the restaurants that get more. So yeah, she's like her own little economic stimulus package.
Yeah, hats off to her. And if you wanted to go look at that Common Sense Institute co.org report, it's fascinating. It got a lot of traction because it was so specific to Taylor Swift, but I think it's undeniable. Probably any concert has a positive effect.
Yeah.
But Taylor Swift is she's got her own gravitational pull. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she is at a place in her life and in her profession where she is moving the planets as she travels around.
Yeah. We were talking about, my friend and I were talking this weekend, and we think that she is this generation's Michael Jackson without the creepy stuff.
Wow. Yeah, well, let's hope it's without the creepy stuff.
Because right now,
we didn't know Michael Jackson had the creepy
stuff. We didn't know that either. But right now, she is the first female artist to ever have 4 albums simultaneously in the top 10 in sales.
Good God.
4.
Good Lord.
I mean, that is breaking damn records. So that is something different. She is something different.
I think about the poor souls that have gone down the romantic highway with her. And I imagine at the time it feels like you're euphoric. It's magical. She's this wonderful, huge pop. I'm sure she's a great lady to date. But man, when things go bad and she starts tweeting stuff out and all oh God, that's ugly.
And there's got to be a lot of pressure because her business, it is a business, and now it is a machine.
Yeah.
And she's very creative, and the music she produces is fantastic, but it is part of a machine. And I would see that getting into that and being a part of that and having to ride shotgun on that machine would be difficult. I'm sure there are lots of strains and difficulties inside of the relationship because of that, because of her time commitments, because of trying to keep things private. So many layers of things.
Unbelievable. Yeah. There's probably an NDA you have to sign for that first hand holding.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that happened on Colorado Inside Out last week, it aired on Friday. If you haven't had a chance to see it, go check out PBS 12. Patty Calhoun said something I thought that was interesting and important. And she was like, listen, I appreciate that Michael Hancock did not designate last week as Taylor Swift week. She said, of all the things to do to highlight someone, and not that she isn't worthy of it, but to highlight someone in an industry where Colorado, especially Denver, has all this great local music. She said, I appreciate that he didn't do that. Meanwhile, everybody and their mother, this guy included, found a way to fit Taylor Swift into whatever it is they were generating that week in terms of product. If you go out to the Gazette and check out my piece, I figured out a way to fit Taylor Swift and a couple different of her things into my ridiculous column. And it was in part to highlight the Common Sense Institute's cost of crime update. And so I'm like, as Patty's talking, I'm like, I'm one of those guys. I did it.
The thing is, I appreciate what you did in highlighting it because I listened to some local radio on Friday, and I'm sorry, they dropped the ball. This is the biggest concert to hit Colorado in years.
Yeah.
And they did very little. The problem is, though, is staffing, is the ideas, and the choices are made further up the ladder outside of Denver for many of these stations. But there should have been things like, special Taylor Swift focused traffic reports. You should have had someone down there outside.
That's true.
Yeah. You should have had someone down there outside talking about, hey, I'm outside with the crowd and this is what we're doing. This is how, when you saw the story that people were passing out in the merch line, the fact that you as a station didn't send, and you play her music, if you play her music and you didn't send someone down there to stand at that merch line and to talk to people, you failed. You absolutely failed. And I heard a number of times where we had Taylor Swift songs, nothing. They're not in talk positions. They're not near where your DJs can talk about what's going on. I listened to several stations and they just failed. I was so frustrated with our industry and sitting here going, this is why Spotify and Pandora is going to win.
Yeah.
This is why they will win, is because when we have a chance to be ultra local, when we have a chance to highlight something that is historic in our town,
missed it.
You guys don't do it. And it's not all because of the people here in town didn't make the right choices, because sometimes the people here in town aren't allowed to make the choices.
But that's probably
that's
more
the
of it.
problem.
That's my guess.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Even your buddy who we watched that video that you showed me from, That dude didn't have tickets to go, but he was like,
No.
I need to be here because I'm in the industry.
Yes.
I need to be here to be a part of this, experience it, and all that other stuff.
He jocks a show on about 75 top 40 stations. And this is something he had to experience. He's like, this is part of my job to be here. He goes, no, I couldn't get tickets inside because, again, tickets on that level are somewhat difficult to get to it now. But he said, I had to be here. It was something I had to do for my job because then I can talk about being in the crowd and what it's like. And he said, in some ways, it's more of a story later on to say that you were at that crowd outside of the stadium than being in the stadium. He goes, in the industry. That's going to give you a better story later on to say, hey, I was there, but I stood outside and watched. It's a different story.
It definitely impacted decisions I made because at the same time as the Tay-Tay stuff, I had tickets to all 3 of the Yankees-Rockies games, which I'll talk about in a minute. But that just being aware.
Sorry.
Oh, man. Is this, you can't say FU at this stage of the show?
No, not after we hit 6. If it was doing 5, we might be able to.
Anyway. But it changed the way we did business. Like I drove in incredibly early on Friday and Saturday, which turned out to be great. And I'll talk about what we did in a minute. But one other thing that's big news today, it is the beginning of a new era because at 10 a.m. when we sign off, MMJ becomes the M. And MMJ, Mayor Mike Johnston. Nice. Someone texted in and said, are we going to cover it? No, because there's nothing we can do. Like I will text Michael during the show just to say, is there any chance in hell you call in and just say, hello, Denver or something? We haven't had him on since I think.
It's not like a gender reveal party. They're not going to get
right. Since he won. He was on after he won, but we haven't had him on since. But I'd love to get him on. I'd love to make it a regular deal.
Maybe what he should be doing is taking a page from Michael Hancock, and maybe he should have the local Denver taxpayers pay for a wonderful promotional video about his first day. It's Michael's first day at work. You know, kind of like when you're going off to the first day in kindergarten, he can have one of those signs that says, you know, Michael Johnson, you know, first day mayor, and you know, have the date. And
let's call him Michael Jackson so we can give him all of the But Johnston.
I think that's what we should do.
I still want to get him on a regular basis. And I think we can pull that off. My guess is the people around him that don't know me will be like, not that freak show. That guy's going to burn you to the ground. And my hope is Michael will be like, I have known George for about 10 years and he has never burned me to the ground. And that's true. I haven't. I just want to have him on to have access and ask questions and stuff. Let's get to the hard part. And that is 3 days of Yankees.
How'd that go?
Rockies. Well, first off,
you left Friday and there was a sparkle in your eye and a spring in your step.
Well, it was great in this way. It was great in this way. It was 3 days to get to spend with my son and his friends. Now, originally the first game on Friday, it was going to be 3 generations of Yankees fans. It was going to be Grandpa, me, and Graham. But Grandpa, between a ruptured Achilles at age 80 and some other tendon thing in his foot, there was just it couldn't work. Right? The mobility thing was just going to be an issue. And Jeff was out in DC with Amanda doing all sorts of cool stuff. And Trey was like, you know what? That's not my bag. I'm going to hang out and invite my friends over and have fun. And I'm like, great, do that. So we get down there early. And the first person we run into when we come through the gates is super fan David Magoya, super investigative reporter, super Yankees fan. So I sent a picture to Billy of that
was awesome.
Yeah, my son and his friend, who's a girl. And I hate to use the phrase girlfriend because instantly you're saying it's some romantic thing. I don't think so. They're 13, no doubt. But anyway, so
I'm glad. And the thing is, when you sent me the picture, I sat there and I had to look at the picture because of the girl in the picture. And I went, either that's a girl or someone is rocking the most dedicated mullet I have seen in years.
No.
So
she's such a good girl too, Macy.
I enlarged it and I'm like, okay, that's a girl.
Yeah, for sure. She's so sweet, so nice. And so we get there early. We get there there's maybe 20 minutes of batting practice left. So Graham and Macy instantly run down to left field, but not in that center part, like left field on the side by the third base wall there, and and it turns out to be a bad choice. We learned a lot of lessons over these 3 games. And so, when they're hitting these flies and all this other stuff, dudes that are down there shagging, they, every so often they turn around and throw a ball to the kids and all that other stuff. And by the way, screw the adults who are there trying to catch the balls. Like, come on, dudes, just let these kids have, you know what I mean?
I don't understand. What is the motivation for the adult down there?
Don't know.
Unless it is like your first or second game ever, then okay. But if
Yeah,
it is,
you're paroled.
get a
This is your
t-shirt.
first game. Yeah.
Get a t-shirt and say, this is my first game. But anytime else, because physically the adults have so much of an advantage, and it is there for the kids.
Oh, it
that is enjoyable for the
or
kids.
catch the ball and give it to a kid.
Yes.
Have them be a hero or something, you know. But there were dudes like reaching out over kids, leaping. I'm just like, come on, man. Just so but nonetheless, they didn't get anything at that time. But we go and we sit down. We have great seats. We're about 2 sections over from Magoya, who has great seats right behind home plate. And I got a chance to see Dave's wife, Vicky, who used to be my director of communications. Now she's the PIO for a different law enforcement agency. But it was great catching up. And it started off great. Giancarlo Stanton hit a 2-run jack to put the Yankees out in front in the first inning. And I thought this is going to be great. And something happened throughout the rest of the game called scoring, and Yankees didn't do it. So they ended up losing the game 7-2. And congratulations, Rockies fans, because whenever the Rockies score 7 or more runs, it's free tacos at Taco Bell.
Ooh,
and that's going to be relevant here as I finish up the rest of this horror story. So they lose, and it was like, yeah, it was still cool. Great weather. Get out there. I got a good buddy who runs the valet shop out there by the Chop House, and he took care of us for some parking and stuff. Super good guy.
Nice.
Makes it way different, by the way. If you don't have to fight for parking.
Oh, yeah. That's a different experience.
Oh, my goodness, man. And the Chop House is right there by that McGregor Square, and just so nice. Anyway. So then game 2 is going to be Saturday, and we grab up Grammy and we go pick up one of his baseball buddies, our coach's son, Gray, great kid. Now we get out there and the kids know, now we know exactly where to go. So we get in. I know Magoya is at the game, but we don't run into him, and they go put themselves in this mass of all dudes. I imagine it was the inverse of the Taylor Swift concert out in left center field, waiting for these flies, dudes throwing balls, same thing. Some adults jumping in, and I'm like, please give it a rest. But they don't get anything. So then they run around. Now we're behind the water spectacular, if you will. And there are groundskeeper dudes fishing the balls out of the area from where guys had hit jacks. And so now the kids are leaning over and they're yelling, hey, and the groundskeeper dudes are throwing them up. Now, super nice guys.
That's so cool.
Super nice guy. They got to work on their arms because there were a couple of throws that were
the groundskeepers.
Like I pictured Graham and Gray at one point going right over, and Graham would have been horrifying. Gray would have been worse because I'm like, oh my God, I'm in charge of someone else's kid.
Exactly.
And they're leaping for these balls over the railing like what? Like they can defy gravity. I'm like, do what? Gray gets one. Graham doesn't, right? And so, and there's one that was thrown up. I'm reaching for it I'm at a different place. There's only dudes where I am. I reach up to grab for one, and this other younger guy jumps over and grabs it and turns and looks at me, and then he gives it to his girlfriend, and I go, I get it, dude. Great catch. You know what I mean? Like it understood, man. Totally. And this was a guy who got to be like 22, 23 or something. I'm like, whatever, I get it. Graham almost gets one. Finally, Graham ultimately gets one. And now it's the mad dash to get down and get signatures. So you go down there and the Rockies end up, for whatever reason, they take the first base side of things, run down there, and we get Chris Bryant's signature, great star for the Rockies, and end up getting Brenton. I mean, so it ends up being a great day. We go up, sit in the stands. Not these guys, though. They want to run around and go find more balls. So they're standing by the ballpark, just yelling, hey, can we get a ball? Meanwhile, the Rockies put on a display, and they end up winning 6-3. Great. Now, yesterday, it's the rubber match, right? Remember, these are the first 3 games since the All-Star break. Elias Diaz comes out in that first game and gets a hero's welcome because he's the All-Star of the All-Star. I mean, he's the MVP of the All-Star game. So now it's game 3. Big thing. We're sitting now on the third base side. I got seats behind home plate, seats out in right field, and seats behind third. So great.
Oh, nice.
We're sitting down there, and now it's me, Graham, and 2 of his baseball buddies, Keaton and Zachariah. And they're loving it. They went out to catch flies. We went and did the whole you do the home run experience, where you're and all the pitching thing and all that. And man, Z hit like 70 miles an hour. It's pretty good. Man. The other 2 boys were at 63, 64, but which isn't bad. It's just not 70. And so now we're sitting there, and this game, I'm telling you, folks, if you didn't watch the game, if you didn't go to the game, this was the most exciting Rockies game of the year. There's no close second. There is no close second. So Yankees are just held scoreless for 5 innings by Anderson, which is crazy. And they've managed to score. It's 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Yankees, through a series of mistakes that McMahon makes. I mean, he had a horrible game out in the field. They end up going up 3-1.
Oh,
3-1 going into the bottom of the 8th. You're sending in a closer. You know, you've got someone you think can at least get you to the 9th inning. Somehow the bases get loaded between walks and cruddy hits, and now C.J. Cron gets up to bat. And I'm sitting here thinking, storybook ending for this guy.
Yeah.
But we're going to strike him out. Only it turns out we're not going to strike him out. Instead, we're going to let him hit a grand slam. Place goes crazy. I have it on my phone. It goes nuts. And I'm like, even though, listen, I'm rooting for the Yankees because I'm a Yankees fan. If I have a National League team, it's the Rockies. The moment was incredible. And the stands were filled.
Nice.
Sold out games all 3 days because of the Yankees, not because of the Rockies.
No, not because of the Rockies.
But people are still just like disbelief. Just
Yeah. So many people are also like you, Coloradans.
Yeah, Coloradans.
So they can cheer the fact that it's
So I was just like, this is incredible. I mean, who gives up a grand slam in the bottom of the 8th?
Yeah.
So now they're up 5-3. Yankees aren't done. They figure out a way to tie the game in the top of the 9th, 5-5, hold the Rockies scoreless. Now we're going into extra innings. This is a story, but now it's back and forth. Then the Yankees put up 2, and it's 7.
Yeah.
7-5 going into the bottom of the 11th. Home run ties the game. And remember, we're at California rules. So you start a dude at second base, right? 7-7, bottom of the 11th. And I'm like, you know what? The good news here is we've got 2 outs. We shut these guys down. It's the top of the order for the Yankees, right? We've got Gleyber Torres. He has been on a tear. Giancarlo Stanton has been popping things out to center field. I think 3 hits in a row were drives to center. This guy's due, man. It's going to happen, right? We're going to get there. 2 outs. And who comes up to bat? It's the number 9 hitter. Now, the number 9 hitter is routinely your least productive hitter.
Yeah.
You have this guy on because he's a great fielder, but you have to put him on. His name is Alan Trejo. Dude doesn't have a home run to his name the whole season. In fact, in June, they sent him down to the minor leagues. He is now facing, with 2 outs, a relief pitcher that has not given up a home run the entire season. There's a miscommunication with the little comms thing. You know what I mean? That says, you should throw a fastball. That thing.
Whatever it is,
And it gets screwed up, and as a result, they blow past the pitch clock. Ump awards a ball. Boom.
Ooh.
So he starts in the hole 1-0. Throws his first pitch. Now he's in the hole 2-0. And this is ridiculous. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, my God, this game has gone so much longer than any of the other games, but I am optimistic. Yankees they're not going to be denied. And then all of a sudden on a 2-0 count, pitch comes across, homerless dude from a guy that ain't giving up a home run. Listen, that is a ridiculously poor call. How you don't scream your head off or give some sort of sense of emotion. He would have used the same tone with and Alan Trejo struck out. And now we're going to instead, this was nuts, man. People were, I mean,
it's almost as if he was saying,
unbelievable.
And that's when the doctor told me I had cancer.
Right. That's right. Tone. And won the lottery at the same time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
It was one of the most incredible moments ever at Coors Field. The only one that I can think of that was better was when I was at the game where Rockies beat, I believe, the Diamondbacks when we ended up winning the pennant to go on to the World Series. That was nuts. But this was, I mean, the storybook was just
fantastic.
It was unbelievable. And as a Yankees fan, devastated, right? Like, how do you figure out a way to lose to one of the worst teams in baseball this year? But the Rockies got to feel good. If they can't use this to springboard into a much better second half, then it's time for the Monforts to go because they're just not doing it. But it was incredible to witness. Just the number of backs and forth. I mean,
That's a good weekend.
Oh,
That's
buddy,
good.
what a great way to finish that
good.
weekend. The other thing I want to put a bug in, you
Yeah.
remember Friday, you broke the news that, hey, Krispy Kreme was having their 86 cents for a dozen.
Did you get donuts?
No,
I didn't either.
no, I didn't either. But I told a lot of people about it.
Though.
86-cent beer?
No, a little more expensive than that, but you'll notice the new hat that I have.
Yeah, it's a sweet hat.
Yeah.
That's a C.
It's a C, and it has hops in the middle, and that is from Lunchpad Brewery.
Oh, we know some people there.
Where Casey, who used to produce Peter Boyles, and then hosts a show Sunday evening, was working. It was the 10th anniversary of Launchpad, and Casey and I are buds, and so I had remembered middle of the afternoon. He told me earlier in the week, hey, it's the 10th anniversary. Swing on down here. Would love to see you. So my oldest son and I, who is of age, went down and we hung out for a couple of hours, had a few beers, saw Casey, hung out with him for a while, and it was nice. We went middle of the afternoon because we didn't want the crowd to be too big, but it was really nice to see how well they're doing. What was the
occasion? Just dad and son are going to get their drink on?
Yeah, we're just going to go drink. Yeah, we're going to go down there because it's their 10th anniversary. So what we're going to do?
Well,
yeah,
buddy, that's
so we're going to
cool.
celebrate their 10th anniversary and go down and see Casey. And that is kind of for my son and I. That is our bar. We don't go there weekly. We don't go there, but when we go out and we go that's where we go. And my son really enjoys craft beer. So we went in, we each tried a couple of things. And in fact, the one beer that, is it Sergeant Hoffman? Yeah, Sergeant Hoffman.
That's
the one
for a beer, man.
And in fact, that's named after Casey's grandfather.
Oh, that's
Casey
really
helped
cool.
brew it. And so it was really cool. He's like, and so we had that one. He's like, that's named after my grandpa. I'm like, what?
That's really cool.
Yeah. So it was really neat to sit there. And so hung with him, saw the crowd, and they just do it right. And it was neat to see a couple of people there that I'm in line with and the fun part was there was always a line to get beer, which was fantastic. And this is middle of the afternoon. So great for them.
Not a Taylor Swift line.
No, not at all. Not like that. But a couple of people are standing there and they're looking around like, oh, this is a nice place. I like this, etc. And so they were somewhat newer to the experience. And so I appreciated that. There were some longtime people that were there because, Casey's walking around doing the high fives and seeing everybody. And I saw a couple of the owners there. And that was neat. But that was just kind of a neat experience where he and I hung out and had a couple hours.
Who drove home?
I drove home because that was the other big thing is my son drove the convertible for the first time. So he drove us there and then I drove us home.
Wind in the hair.
Yeah. So
did you have Taylor Swift music blasting?
No, he didn't. We had someone else playing, but it's one of those things he had never driven the car before. And I'd always told the kids there's going to be a time where you guys are going to get to drive the car.
And that'll be on the way to liquor.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the one. This was the one that,
buddy, that's pretty cool. And great weather for it.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Speaking of the Tay-Tay, the music that they played in between innings and all that stuff, all day Friday, at least all game Friday, was all Taylor Swift.
Again, very smart.
I'm telling you, it was just...
So some of the local radio stations here should have paid attention because they fell flat on their face.
You could identify every single person going to a Taylor Swift concert versus the Rockies game because everyone going to the Rockies game was wearing Yankees gear.
Yes, and everyone going to Taylor's was sparkly.
Sparkly.
Yes.
Dudes included, man.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
I told you before how just completely tolerant this generation is, like just different than when I grew up. And there was a dude walking around in some kind of a sequin top. And I go, man, how uncomfortable must that be? And I say that to Graham, and he's with his friend who's the girl in the back of the car. And he goes, I don't think it'd be that uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, I just because me and my buddies would be like, dude, what is going on, man? Like, and he's just like, I don't think it would be that uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, never mind. I'm just gonna move on. Last thing I was gonna say though, a la 86-cent dozen Krispy Kremes, the Powerball drawing tonight is for $900 million. So listen, folks, I'm not a big advocate on gambling. I just don't do it that much because I hate throwing away money. I feel like in between here in the airport this morning, I'm going to find a way to get me one just because, you know what I mean? Just because. Is there a chance? Yeah. I mean, there's a chance.
You can't win if you don't play. So
and how awful will you feel when you hear the winner of the $900 million jackpot came out of Aurora, Colorado, and you'll be like, no, I was just
at the place where you normally get gas. The place that exactly. So
$900 million bucks. And if that's true, Billy, this will be our last show.
I agree.
Because
it doesn't matter which one of us wins.
I'm going to throw you enough money to transition you to whatever career you want to after this. But
same for you.
I don't think I'm here on Wednesday. I think this ends up becoming
In
Pete
fact,
slash Jimmy slash
if we
John
do
slash
win,
Jeff
if
slash
either one
Jeff.
of us wins,
Yeah.
I guarantee that neither one of us will be sober on Wednesday.
Yeah,
And that'll start at least.
Then I want to amend my
before.
answer. We will do the show on Wednesday, but we will not be sober
Yes,
doing
exactly.
the show. We will grab that remote
Yes.
kit in the middle of the
Yes,
night
we
on
will.
Tuesday, and we will do this show from some god-awful place
Yes.
where there's nothing but alcohol
Yes.
and regret.
Yeah. And they serve it in 60-ounce glasses.
That's just like I know the
Yes.
place in Branson, Missouri. The
Exactly.
60. Oh
All
my!
right.
And once again, we've hit 60.
Oh.
6:34.
Yeah, we gotta
whatever.
get outta
Listen,
here.
we still got to do the Thorpe Report, which is important, folks. And then we got to finish off Monday the right way by doing You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I've done it again. I've hosed Billy out of the good stuff. He's going to speed read through the very peaceful, upbeat Thorpe Report.
Oh, yeah, it's all happy. It's all Taylor Swift and Rockies win. That's all we got. The National Weather Service has issued a heat advisory for the Denver metro area today. It covers the I-25 urban corridor, including Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, and Greeley. It runs from 10 this morning until 8 p.m. The record high for July 17th is 102 degrees, set in 2010. Elsewhere, lots of shootings.
Oh, no.
Yeah, police in Denver and Aurora are investigating 6 separate weekend shootings that left 6 people wounded. First shooting occurred in the 2200 block of Arapahoe Street, downtown Denver, Friday evening. 1 victim located, transported to the hospital, condition unknown. Shortly after that, a few blocks over, a second shooting occurred in downtown Denver, 2100 block of Stout Street. A person self-transported themselves to the hospital, unknown injuries. Third shooting wounded 1 person and took place in the 19,000 block of East 51st Place in Denver around midnight on Saturday. No report of condition. Hours later, Aurora police responded to reports of shot fired in the 13,000 block of East Louisiana Avenue. Found a man suffering from life-threatening gunshot wounds, taken to the hospital. 5th shooting Sunday morning, 6600 block of East Colfax Avenue. Victim was located, transferred to the hospital. Again, injury unknown. And then late on Sunday morning, Denver police responded to the Green Valley Ranch Boulevard and Chambers Road.
Good
1 person
God,
located,
buddy.
transported to the hospital. Yeah, 6 shootings. Yay, us. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Also in Pueblo, a man attempting to swim from a sinking boat in Lake Pueblo on Saturday evening didn't make it. 3 people were in a small ski boat. He began taking on water and quickly sank. 2 of the occupants that were wearing their life preservers did resurface. The victim, not identified, tried to swim to shore, but he was wearing pants, boots, and no life jacket.
Damn, buddy.
Yep. Yeah. So
Come on,
bad
take that
decision.
stuff off.
I know. It's ridiculous. I mean, at least wear the life jacket. Also, elsewhere, homes in the Denver area have gotten so expensive, the Metro Realtors Association has stopped analyzing sales of houses under $500,000. They don't even analyze them
Because they don't
Yeah,
exist.
and they don't. It's at less than 500 homes sold in that price point from a previous report.
Are you kidding
No,
me?
and the other, and they're not on this. They're not on the market. That if you have a house under $500,000, it's on the market so few minutes.
First
that it
house
doesn't matter.
I ever bought, 96. I had
Yeah.
just been hired as a brand new deputy DA on a salaried level.
Yeah.
I had been doing $12 an hour, no benefits before that. First house I ever bought was like $130,000 in
Yeah.
Highlands Ranch.
Oh yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
Had I
now.
hung on to that thing, it would be worth $3 trillion.
Yes, it would be. Yes, you wouldn't be doing this radio show.
No, no,
No.
dang it.
And I've heard stories about this, but I'm not sure. But I heard that someone named Nolan Jones led off the 11th inning and had a tying run to beat the Yankees 8-7 yesterday. It's a rumor that we had. It's a report that
Trejo
we
killed
had.
us, man. It was
Yeah.
just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
I know.
Good. I'm
Lots
glad
of
we didn't
shootings and
talk
some fun
anymore about
stuff.
that.
No.
I want to give you ample opportunity, though, for you choose the news. So without any further delay, let's cut away for another. It could be a 40-minute break. Nobody knows. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Going to give it over to the big man to get through You Choose the News and hopefully our sponsor because we owe them. Billy.
Yes, sir. The check has cleared, so the sponsor does want to know if we will actually mention them today. So let's see what happens. Yes, it's time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News, where we have scoured the interwebs throughout this entire weekend, at least as far as you know, to find these ridiculous stories, giving them fake headlines to play this dumb radio news game. Why? Well, the powers that be have no idea we're doing it. So do us a favor and don't tell them because a little side money that George and I earn, and we need every bit we can get. All righty, sir.
Amen.
Here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, the first 10 seconds are free. Headline number 2, resting comfortably is for the weak. Headline number 3, maybe it's community outreach. And headline number 4, beer, nectar of the gods. All righty, your headlines yet again are the first 10 seconds are free. Resting comfortably is for the weak. Maybe it's community outreach, and beer and nectar of the gods. Your choice, sir.
Boy, 2 college mottos in there that are competing in my head for number 1. Let's start with the first 10 seconds are free.
The first 10 seconds are free. At least that's what a judge in Italy says if you are being sexually assaulted. They get a free 10 seconds.
Oh, my God.
Yes, the case involves a 17-year-old student at a Rome high school. She describes walking up a staircase to class with a friend when she felt someone pull down her trousers and a hand grab her then bare buttocks and her underwear. Now, this is the shocking part. She turns around and the person says, "Love, you know I was just joking." Who said that? Well, a 66-year-old man who works at the school.
Oh, my
So a 66-year-old man pulls down the pants of a 17-year-old student and grabs her buttocks and holds on to it. He admitted to groping the student in court without consent, but he said, "It was only a joke." You know, who doesn't do that as a joke? Who doesn't grab and pull down people's clothes and grab their body parts as a joke? We've all been there, haven't we?
Did he sniff her hair too?
Yeah, exactly. Now, the thing is this is what's happened is the judge said, well, obviously, this can't be sexual assault and can't even be considered a crime. Why? Because it lasted less than 10 seconds. So again, yes, the judge said it can't be a crime because it lasted less than 10 seconds. And this has actually started a TikTok thing.
Insane.
It
This
is
is Italy?
Italy. And it's started a TikTok trend in Italy where people it's women, and they film themselves with someone's hand off screen, grabbing one of their naughty bits and holding it for 10 seconds while they stare into the camera.
Not a crime.
Yep, exactly. And that's what they're kind of looking at. So, yeah, the student is worried that, hey, this just gives the green light to people to say, hey, I can just grab you for 10 seconds.
One of the dumbest things I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Of course, nobody's really turning to Italy for guidance on any issue. They want to visit it and see stuff from the past, like when they were worth something. But nobody's like, what does Italy think on this?
What do they think about this? Not like, what does Italy think about Ukraine?
Stick with the pizza.
All right. Resting comfortably is for the weak. Maybe it was community outreach or beer, nectar of the gods.
Beer is nectar of the gods.
Beer is nectar of the gods. This is once again a story about what can't beer do? Like wine, beer can have wonderful health benefits if consumed in moderation. I should ignore that last part. The issue is that a recent study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry says that having at least one delicious beer a day is good for your health. They say that there are lots of microorganisms that live in your stomach and your intestinal tract. And the one beer a day at least will help you live longer because it helps promote the diversity and making sure that they're alive. So basically, if you're not having at least one beer a day, you may not live as long as the rest of us beer enthusiasts. True? Yes, that's exactly. Well, at least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Is that Harvard? Did they do that?
No, it's the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. So obviously, a bunch of science
a lot
hippies.
Like the law.
Yeah. They also mentioned that non-alcoholic beer can do the same thing, but screw that. Non-alcoholic beers for sissies. Alrighty. Now, sir, your final story this morning. Resting comfortably is for the weak, or maybe it was community outreach.
Resting comfortably is, in fact, for the weak.
Resting comfortably is for the weak. We are going to travel all the way to Slide Mountain. It is the Catskills' highest peak. Again, not a real mountain, because it's only 4,100 feet. Losers. But a group of hikers recently took matters in their own hands because when people hike up to the top of Slide Mountain, it's been a long, long trek and there's nowhere to rest. So they actually carried 2 Adirondack-style chairs up to the top of the summit and left them behind, for the peoples to use.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's when the wildlife officials said, yeah, you can't do that. You can't just take stuff up to the top of the mountain and leave it. We've got rules about that stuff. And they said, but chairs, we're being nice. And they said, nice is not part of our vocabulary. So you need to remove these chairs. And they said, I'm sorry, sir, we cannot get back up there at a reasonable time. And they said, here, have a $300 fine for taking the chairs up there, and we will remove them ourselves. So, yeah, they didn't want to have the chairs up there, so they removed them. Yeah,
I guess, I don't know.
I know.
I guess I see it.
I understand it, but it seems like kind of a pain in the ass.
Maybe you have to bring your whatever.
I know, exactly. Well, that's it. That is the end of today's You Choose the News. As always, George is your perennial winner, and I'm a giant loser. But today, we are sponsored by Excel Energy. Yes, experience Excel Energy's new building plan because we said so. Yes, your rates will fluctuate based on market price, lawsuits they have to pay off, and their weekly tarot readings. Why? Well, because they said so. Excel Energy, where their motto is, what are you going to do about it? Alrighty, sir, back to you.
Buddy, we did it. I don't know if you know, there's only seconds left, but we did it, folks, despite the early banter and the ripping and the roaring. Now, listen, when we come back, we're going to get into the serious stuff here. There are laws being broken by the legislators every day, and we have heroes, people. Heroes who have outed them. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stick around. George Brauchler on The George Show. It's 7:10 in US. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's hour 204. Charlie Kirk at 10. He had a little shindig somewhere. I can't remember where it was in the United States. Had a bunch of people talking, Tucker and some other folks. Got a little controversy, too. It sounds like they oversold the number of tickets, and there were some unhappy TikTok videos out there of people who were really upset at having spent upwards of $1,000 to fly out to, I think it was it Florida or something, Billy? I can't remember. And got hotel rooms and showed up there, and then we're told there's no more room at the inn for you. We'll have it broadcast outside where you are, or put you out in some other area. It was cringeworthy moments there, but otherwise, I imagine the whole thing was fantastic. Listen, I want to talk to you about some stuff that was going on under the Gold Dome that has gotten some very interesting coverage. Wrong coverage, by the way, in my opinion, but we'll analyze that in a moment. But we had a caller who called in during the break who wanted to talk about another event that took place over the weekend in the local area. His name is Kent. Kent, you're on 710. What do you want to tell us, my man?
Yes, sir. I just didn't hear you guys mention Bandemers. That last weekend was their last big hurrah before they closed.
You're right. We did not mention that. It's true.
But I won't punish you too bad. So
Good. Did you go?
Yes, I did. It's great. Sold out all 3 days.
Oh, fantastic. Was it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Yes, sir.
And what sort of cool stuff did they have? Somebody texted in. They saw someone go like 300 jillion miles an hour on something.
It was John Forrest's daughter, Brittany. She broke a record of 337 miles an hour.
Unbelievable. I can't imagine that. I get hinky at 120. I can't imagine almost tripling that. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's moving. That's not even they've shut those cars down. They used to go a quarter mile, but it was too fast, I guess, or what. Well, anyway, they're going less than a quarter of a mile now at that speed. So,
Kent, had you been there before, or were you there because this was the last hurrah?
Well, no, I go there and then I race on off days, during the year and everything. So,
oh, you do? What are you racing? What's your car?
56 Chevrolet.
And what's the fastest you've taken that thing?
Oh, gee. It's not fast. It's only like 100 miles an hour. So,
but you take it out there for other reasons.
Yeah, I enjoy going out there and getting along with all the people and everything. It's a good bunch of people. So
I'll bet. Have you taken that car out on the regular roads?
Yes, I do.
What's the fastest you've gotten it up on the regular roads?
Just the speed limit. No.
Come on, Ken. Come on, buddy. It's just us girls here talking. Give it up, man. What's the fastest you've gone? And then my next question was going to be, where is it best to get your car up to that max speed?
Oh, just on Kipling, about 3:00 in the morning.
Lakewood PD right now is like, note to self, increase traffic on Kipling. Kipling south of where? I just want to make sure I'm not crossing the street leaving a bar at that hour.
Right in front of the Federal Center, there's usually not too much traffic right there.
Oh my God, you're going right by Kipling Stadium, man, where I played high school football. That's fantastic. Hey, Kent, Thank you for the reminder. Bandemir's, of course, a great family out here in the community. I can't wait to see what they do next. I just know it won't be there. I hope they can keep this thing going. They're
supposed to do something out by the airport, so we'll just wait and see.
I'd like to see them race the planes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be a fantastic thing. Ken, thank you for listening. Thanks for the phone call. Here's a couple texts that have come in. That silly overhyped bulge. Oh, here it is. Somebody had said when we talked about Italy, someone had talked about the fact that I brought up pizza, and they're like, need one, forget fashion, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Dolce & Gabbana. I said, I've never heard of them. Fendi, Ferragamo, Gucci. Oh, wait, maybe your fashion is more Walmart. That's true. Goodwill, once. Target, yes, if it's on sale. And JCPenney all day long, man. I just look, all of my shirts underneath these more expensive suits are JCPenney shirts. That's true. And that's also, okay, just reading some stuff here about this, but honestly, I'm pretty, and then somebody who just had to throw repeated punches at me over the Yankees' dismal loss to our Rockies. Now, listen, here's what I want to talk to you about. There was some coverage this weekend in both the Post and in the Colorado Sun and in the Gazette. And it was about this. And we mentioned it on Friday, but I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive here. And it's causing me a little bit of gas because these people are getting a bunch of favorable treatment for something that they should be called on the carpet for. Let me set the stage. On Friday, it gets reported by all the big news outlets out there that Representative Elizabeth Epps of Denver and Representative Crazy Bob Marshall out of Highlands Ranch, Colorado, that's in my county of Douglas, that they filed a lawsuit against their own caucus leadership and the leadership of the House Republican caucus. It's a 13-page complaint, and in it, they say the legislature, especially the leadership, is violating the law of the state of Colorado. And that law that they're violating, you can find it at CRS, that stands for Colorado Revised Statutes, 24-6-402. Now, it's also 401, but 24-6-402, which is about open meetings. And they call it COML, Colorado Open Meetings Law. That's their own colloquial term for it. They got themselves Steve Zansberg. Dude's wicked smart, probably the best First Amendment and transparency lawyer out there in the state of Colorado. I mean, he's the guy that the media hires when they want to get access to records and stuff like that. And he's been doing it forever, and he is an authority. And frankly, I should probably try to see if I can get him on air. But they filed this lawsuit saying the leadership is, they're practicing secrecy. They're holding meetings outside the presence of the public. There's stuff in here, folks. Let me read you some of these things. I printed off the 13-page complaint because I want to see how a lawyer phrased this stuff. This language is really very strong about what they're accusing the leadership of. Listen to this. This is from page 6, paragraph B20. Throughout the first regular session of the 74th General Assembly, let's be clear about what that means. From the word go until it ended, throughout the first session, Democratic caucus members constituting a quorum, that's enough to fall underneath that open meetings law, of every House committee of reference met outside of public view, usually weekly, to discuss pending legislation. You can't do that in Colorado, folks. That is a violation of the law. When you have those kinds of meetings, you have to give notice to the public, and they didn't. But wait, there's more, and I'm skipping through a couple sentences here to get to some good stuff. These meetings were never publicly noticed. Defendants directed legislative aides to omit or disguise these mandatory meetings from representatives' calendars. Holy crap. Think about that. These are taxpayer-funded elected representatives that are asking other taxpayer-funded staff members or even interns to hide information deliberately from you and me in terms of how they're doing business. They also, this is another sentence, defendants did not promptly record meeting minutes and did not make minutes available to the public. This is huge. This is scandalous. This is the legislature working in the shadows. Remember those smoke-filled dark rooms in the back? That's what they're talking about right here. Paragraph 22. For almost the entirety of the first regular session of the 74th General Assembly, a quorum of the Democratic caucus met twice weekly outside of public view to discuss public business. Now, you can't just throw punches at your own leadership because it's poisonous enough you filed this suit anyway, but you got to drag the Republicans into it. And so they use this special lawyer language in the next paragraph. This is paragraph 23. On information and belief during the first regular session, blah, blah, blah. Republican caucus did it too, in essence. That language on information and belief means we really can't say, we don't have any firsthand knowledge of it. We think there's evidence out there. We're just saying we have a good faith basis for making this accusation. Don't know if they have any evidence of it at all, but on information and belief protects that attorney from making claims for which they have no evidence at the moment. And they don't. My guess is they have no evidence of it at the moment. Paragraph 24. Throughout the first regular session, blah, 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 House members regularly used an ephemeral digital communications platform called Signal to discuss public business outside of public view in real time during public hearings of House committees of reference. Signal communications included consideration of witness testimony and discussion of members' expected votes. These electronic digital communications among House committee members were not available to the public for contemporaneous observation and were set for automatic deletion via a disappearing message function. Holy smokes! I mean, this is incredible stuff. This is huge. And so sure enough, the reporting goes on, and these two, Epps and Marshall, are lauded as some heroes. Like, I think the Denver Gazette thing, if I can find the title of this thing, it was something about it took courage. It took courage for them to come forward. It was an amazing act of courage to take on their leadership. And these first term, first session legislators, my God, the guts it took to come forward and do this. And I got a different take on this, folks. Maybe it's the prosecutor in me, but this feels a lot like people who watched their neighbor's house get burglarized every other night for 6 months. And then after the burglars left town and wouldn't bother these folks anymore, they said, you know what, maybe we ought to call the cops. Maybe we ought to let them know there were crimes ongoing for 6 months that we witnessed, and my guess is participated in. And they're being lauded as heroes. I think this complaint acts as a confession. There certainly needs to be more investigation. And you know what I haven't seen? Not from the Sun, not from the Post, not from the Gazette, are questions directed at these two heroes about why they waited 6 months to notify the public about this or file a lawsuit. By their very terms, they said it took place from almost the beginning, and it took place every week, and it took place throughout the session. Their terms. One thing I have not seen anybody ask is, did you use the Signal? Did you use Signal? And when they used Signal, did you screen capture the communications to make sure they were preserved for the public so that this self-destructing, this automatic self-destructing mode could be defeated in exchange for the law itself? Did you? And if you didn't, why didn't you? Can you imagine the kind of stuff that was said? This isn't partisan, folks. This is not partisan at all. I want to hear what the Republicans and Democrat legislators were saying to each other during hearings, crap talking witnesses, or saying, what about this? Or, hey, I think my vote might. We should get to know that. And so what I want to know from Epps and Marshall, and what they appear to have never been asked, is one, why did you wait 6 months? Because there's a lot of self-interest involved here. These two had bills they wanted to advance. These two had positions that they wanted supported, and they needed the leadership for it. So while they said, we spent a lot of time encouraging the leadership to do the right thing, and we said you shouldn't do this, and the leadership appears to have looked at them and said, shut up. But what if you're attacked with a pointed stick? Shut up. I mean, that's what took place. And their courageous, gutsy response was, you know, when this whole session is over and I've squeezed as much influence as I can out of this position, I'm going to come forward and say some things. This is redunculous. Here's some other text. George, here you go. Hey, you great American patriot. Matt, no, never mind. I agree. They're chickens, and that's an insult to the chickens. Oh, how about this? Another text. I saw some comments by journalists in the press pool there making excuses for the lawmakers. What excuse could you have? These courageous do-gooders that are out. I mean, listen, Bob Marshall's being touted as he's the guy that filed a successful suit against the Douglas County School Board for meeting in secret. Hey, my hat's off to you, Bob. I want transparency. Congratulations. You didn't wait 6 months to file that suit. You didn't wait 6 minutes to file that suit, man. When that happened, you jumped into court and said this is outrageous and there needs to be transparency. However, when you were in a body that appears to have been communicating about public policy constantly, weekly, from the beginning to the end, you were mum's the word. And this is a dude that holds himself out to be the courageous Marine. Now, my guess is he served his country honorably and heroically, and I appreciate that. But is this what they taught you in the Marines? You see something bad happen and you sit on your hands for 6 freaking months? This is gutless. This isn't courageous. I want to know, where's Epps and Marshall? Where are the media to hold them accountable for what they didn't do? Once you went to the leadership and said, make it right, and they said no, why didn't you go to the media immediately? Why didn't you file a lawsuit immediately? In fact, having not done it in January and February and March and May, April and May and June, having not done, why do it now? Why do it in July? What happened in July that all of a sudden you're like, now we need to act? This is so super important. We got to do something now. This just smells stupid to me. This smells really dumb. But get this. There's this, the statute I read to you, 24-6-402. There's a subsection 2 here, and it's huge. I can't read you the whole thing. But it actually involves language that says the General Assembly. That's these folks breaking the rules. The General Assembly hereby finds and declares that. And this is what the General Assembly is saying about itself and its own thoughts and policies. It is the intent of the General Assembly that local governments transition from posting physical notices of public meetings to going online. It is the intent of the General Assembly to relieve a local government of the requirement. It is all these other things. All meetings, listen to this, all meetings of 2 or more members of any state public body, that's the legislature, at which any public business is discussed or at which any formal action may be taken are declared to be public meetings open to the public at times. That's the law saying it. You know who else agrees? Elizabeth Epps and Bob Marshall and their attorney. But here's the kicker, and maybe they didn't read further enough down the law to get to it. But there's another subsection after 2. There's a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8. And here's what 8 says. No resolution, rule, regulation, ordinance, or formal action of a state or local public body shall be valid unless taken or made at a meeting that meets the requirements of subsection 2. Uh-oh. You know how many times the media has been asked these guys about that? Not a single one. I don't see it at all. We just let these two, and by the way, they're accomplices, right? At a minimum, they're accessories. There is a statute called accessory to a crime. And when you know a crime has been committed and you continue to participate with these folks, you are likely not only an accessory, you are complicit in their behavior. And nobody's asked them, did you have signal on your phone? Did you get these messages? And did you delete them? Did you screen capture them? Did you share them with anyone? So these complicitors, these accessories to this violation of Colorado law are being lauded as heroes. Come on. These people are only slightly better than the villains that seem to operate in the shadows. But the kicker is, and what I want to see now is, maybe I'll reach out to Michael Fields or someone. We need Advance Colorado or somebody to file a lawsuit saying that every one of these hearings that resulted in a vote that advanced a bill to the floor for further action where these other things happened, that none of those votes are valid. We're going to undo the legislative session because these freak shows violated the open meetings law. And it's not because George Brauchler says it. It's because their own people who participated in it said it. That's what's going on in your legislature. This is stupid. But this is it, folks. We want to undo some of these stupid gun bills. We can fight over whether they're constitutional. How about we just invoke Section 8 of this open meetings law and say, hey, every time you did this, it was invalid. How are we going to prove this, though, with these self-defeating, self-destructing messages? We might have been able to do it had Marshall and Epps summoned the courage to screenshot these things and save them for others. But my guess is they're more interested in political viability than they are in the legitimacy of the legislature and following the law. Because they still need these people, right? They still need the leadership. Courageous. Courageous would have been January 15th. Courageous might have been February 28th. Courageous might have been March 1st, April 1st. Hell, do it on April Fool's Day. But in July, after the session's over, after you've gotten everything you think you can get out of this legislature for your bills and your positions, that ain't courage. I saw this crime happen once. It went on over 6 months. After it was over, I thought maybe I should come forward and say something about it. Gold Star winner. Where is the mainstream media to hold these people accountable for their participation in this? Utter junk. Here's another text. Roberts Rule and Colorado Sunshine Law were day one for every single quasi-government board I've been on. How are the dummies under the gold dome not privy to this info? Oh, I think it's a sarcastic question. They're privy to it, all right. They just don't care. And I want to be clear about this. I don't care if this brings down Republicans, and this is nonsense, man. This is what's wrong with government. You want to mistrust someone? How about mistrust these elected officials? Tired of seeing all the tweets from the Colorado Dems about all the great stuff they did this legislature? Pummel them with questions. Why did you participate in a scheme to obscure your use of authority we loaned you? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to make amends? Where's the apology? You know, I saw part of their courageous article out of the Gazette where some people, I think they were in the legislature, they may have used to be, they're like, well, it's very important that they have the ability to have candid conversations with each other or it could really imperil policy. Change the law. Change the law. But this idea like, well, but it's the ends justify the means, and we've all done it this way. I got to tell you, for a guy who has lauded Dave Magoya for all the exposure that the judicial branch has had, we could use a little, and this isn't a thing about Dave, this is about the mainstream media in general. We could use a little more scrutiny with the legislature. These clowns are running around making a mockery of a law that contains repeatedly the phrase, it is the intent of the General Assembly. It sounds like it's the intent of the General Assembly to operate in secrecy and then tell you about all the great things they've done without you getting to know about it. I don't know. It's a rant. It's at the beginning of a Monday. I want to know what you want to see done about this. What should be done about this? Can we arguably invalidate the legislative session, or at least those parts of it that involve this nefarious, illegal use of this signal? I use Signal. I use Signal with the military. We do it all the time, but that ain't open to the public, peeps. These are legislators. Every single one of them should have to come forward to the public and say why it was appropriate and not a violation of the law. And if they won't do it, Republican or Democrat, get out. Get out. You too, Bob Marshall. You too, Elizabeth Epps. You don't get cover because you waited 6 months to come forward and announce, this is so wrong, we had to take action after the session was over. Give me a break. 303-696-1971. I'm going to take my pills during the break. Maybe lay off a little bit of the caffeine. It's George Brauchler of the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I want to tell you the blood pressure dropped and my pulse rate has returned to normal. But Billy and I just talked about this the whole time off the air. It just really pisses me off that, one, it happened. I mean, that's the number one thing, that this was going on with our legislature. I don't know if it's Republicans and Dems alike, but got to know what's going on here. And then, in fact, Billy, do me a favor. This is the sausage getting made on air. Maybe we reach out to Rose Puglisi and ask Rose, she's in the leadership, if she's willing to come on and tell her what it's about, see if she's got time to come on. But that this would happen at all really pisses me off. I guess it doesn't surprise me. I don't know. I wanted to say, hey, I'm shocked, but I guess I'm not shocked, but I'm shocked at I don't know how to describe it. But then the fact that the media has just rolled over and said, we'll play dead for you after you come forward. You're so courageous. And this was such an important, needed thing. And it's like, you suck. Do something here. Hold these people accountable. Put them on the record. Put them on camera, asking them the hard questions. Did you have signal on your phone? Did you receive these messages? Did you save them? If not, why not? Bob. Maybe they did. Maybe that's what's coming in this lawsuit. Maybe we'll get to see some of those messages. Why not come with the public right now? You can't say, well, I'm saving these things for litigation. These are communications which by your own complaint you admit should be accessible to the public. This is just garbage. This is utter garbage, and it pisses me off that this is going on. So then some texts have come in and said, hey, this was a question that was asked. Maybe they had to be sure of themselves before they came forward. I don't believe that, and you can't believe that, because they've said in their complaint, this has been happening throughout the session. It started right away, and we went to the leadership to ask them not to do it. So how much time did you give them? Did you ever give them an ultimatum? If you don't stop this practice, we are going to the public with this. Did you ever do that? If not, why not? What were you afraid of? They'd stab you in the face? They'd call you fat? I mean, what was it you were afraid of that kept you from fulfilling your obligation to the laws and the taxpayers of the state of Colorado? Gutless. Just gutless. Another text. I'm glad it's done to prevent it from being done in the future. I agree. I agree with that. And yeah, thank you for bringing it forward now. But that's all you get. You get the thanks followed by, why did it take you 6 months to act? Quite the heroic activity there. Alexa texted, and this made sense to me too. It's like the arsonist calling the fire department, and Billy said, yeah, after the house burned down. This isn't a started fire, and I just want to see the funny red trucks with the lights come and put it out. I let the thing burn to the ground and then announced, hey, by the way, that building was on fire. Another text. Sounds like the whole legislative session should be vacated. I don't know. It's a good question, isn't it? Isn't it an interesting question? They didn't comply with Section 2 of this particular statute, 24-6-402. And listen, there's folks out there who are attorneys and smarter than me for sure. You don't have to be an attorney to be smarter than me. You just have to be able to fog a mirror. But check it out. Look at this statute. Go look it up. I'm looking at, where did I print this thing off? Find Law. Just check it out. And you tell me if I'm misreading this bad boy. Another text. Hey, George, you're fired up like it. Now maybe you will do this. Don't you think you should start attacking Chuck Schumer? To bring up your ratings, and ratings is made possessive. No, Eric, thank you. No, first off, thanks for only capitalizing the first letter of every word instead of the entire word. Thank you for that. But no, man, and I don't need to get my ratings up. I don't know if you've heard, we are the #1 show in Denver. Let's invalidate Senate Bill 303 equals Proposition HH. I'll be honest, it feels like that's got to be on the table, a conversation about not just the Bill 303, but the rest of it. Another text. Why weren't the parties calling each other out? Just a good old boys club. You can do it as long as you don't call us out for doing it. That's how it feels to me. And let's be clear, man. I don't care if it's Republicans. I got friends in that House caucus, people that I'm definitely political friends with. I don't care. If you're engaged in this, please come on air and tell me why it was okay, why it didn't violate the law. I don't get it. Here's another one. EPS will burn down every institution. Honestly, given what's been going on here, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what needs to happen, Joan, is we need, and I'm not talking about scrap the legislature, but maybe scrap everybody that participated in this nonsense in it. We want names. There needs to be discovery in this lawsuit, and discovery can take the form of depositions. Wouldn't you love to see 100 depositions? I would. Deposing 65 members of the House, regardless of party, deposing 35 members of the state Senate, regardless of party. You know who else should be brought into this? How about the executive branch? Here's something that's really garbage. Do you know that the Governor Polis's office, Weiser's office too, they hang on to their emails for a mere 30 days before they destroy them? That's right, 30 days, because, you know, emails can really take up a lot of space, and it's just so much more important that we don't spend those extra dollars to end up hiding things. There are things that you and I don't even get to know about for 30 days, and then we can't go back and get those emails. Here's my proposal. We need to, one, dig as deep and as broadly as we can on this to find out how bad this rot goes. 2, we need to change 24-6-402 to create a criminal component to it. Here's my thought. We put criminal teeth into this. If you violate the open meetings law, if you violate it, it is some unclassified misdemeanor. Hell, let's make it a petty offense. Okay, so nobody's going to jail on a first offense. Nobody's going to jail. It's a fine of $5,000 for every violation. Every violation is every signal message you sent. Let's just say that. But here's the real kicker. If you're convicted of it, you are out of office and you are barred from holding elected office for, make up a number, 10 years, 15 years. It's not the death penalty for politics, but in terms of Colorado politics, yeah, you can no longer be trusted to do the public's business because you hide it from the public. You get convicted of the open meetings law. You can no longer serve in that position. If you put that into action, you would scare the living crap out of every single member of state and local government to the point where they will over-disclose. And isn't that exactly what we want? They will over-disclose, or they won't have communications anymore. Okay, I'm willing to have the trade-off. Think about that. Every one of these members being subjected to some kind of prosecution. And by the way, if I thought we could trust the Attorney General's office, and I don't, by the way, it's the most hyper-partisan Attorney General's office we have ever had. And based on recent performance in front of the Supreme Court and with the amicus briefs, one of the most unsuccessful and haphazard in the way that they do their business. I don't trust them either. But maybe what we need to create is an office of the special counsel, specially appointed for some period of time that exceeds whatever a normal legislative term is. And they get appointed by a combination of the Chief Justice, the governor, the heads of both of the parts of the legislature. I don't know. Or maybe elected. God, think about that. An office of the special prosecutor elected statewide. Damn. Empowered to oversee things like this. Think about them apples. And maybe it's such a powerful position you only put them in for 3 years. It doesn't matter. But accountable only to the public, not accountable to any branch, any party. It has to be a nonpartisan office. In fact, you can't run for it as a Republican or a Democrat. You have to be unaffiliated. Wow. Think about how powerful that would be. And then all we can do is cut them loose to go root around government and find the people violating the open meetings law, the CORA, CCJRA, and bringing to account those who have violated it. Dang. I think I could wrap my mind and my arms around such a thing. Let's have a bee watcher that's elected by the people to watch the bee watchers. Oh man, that sounds super exciting. I'd love to have that conversation with you. We've got more text coming in. Here's a text. Yes, ! ×3 depositions. Here's one: the people need to hold the manipulators accountable. Yes, convictions and barred from office. No left-wing prosecution. Oh, no, there won't be any wings on this prosecution. It will just be straight. It will be like the Terminator. There doesn't need to be mercy here, but nobody's going to jail. All we're doing is taking away your ability to serve in government and fining you money. And if that doesn't bring government officials into compliance, and by the way, we also need to change the law that say the governor may never, ever, never, never, never delete a single email. And we also need to have a companion law that says 100% of government business must be done on government email or text and remain available to the public at their choosing. That's what needs to, same thing with the AG's office and the Secretary of State's office and the Treasurer and all the other executive branches. That's what we need here in Colorado, a new day of transparency and accountability. Hey, we're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by our smart friends out there at Alpine Planning to tell us what's going on there in the financial market. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. We're all the way back here at the George Show on 710 KNUS. It is that time of the show, the exciting one, where we get to be made smarter about all things financial. And to help us have that conversation after a great weekend, unless you're a Yankees fan, is Amy Duncan. Amy, thanks for joining us. And how was Taylor Swift?
Right, George? I don't know, but that young lady is doing something right.
Holy
because
smokes.
This craze, holy cow.
I know.
I'm telling you what, my dad was in town for the weekend, and
Your
he was
dad
like,
went?
boy, between Taylor Swift and the Yankees, Denver was quite the mecca
it was
of
hopping.
excitement.
Yeah, it was.
I got to
Yeah.
admit, though, I do love me some Taylor. She's got chops when it comes to some of those songs, but
Really
I certainly
smart.
did not attend.
Really smart.
Anyway, yep. All righty, sir. Take a look at these numbers. Very, very quiet numbers to start Monday. Dow's up about 15 points. The S&P is flat. NASDAQ is up about 30. Coming off really nice gains last week, though. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ were all up. Dow was up 2.3%. The S&P was up 2.5%. NASDAQ was up over 3% last week, and mostly driven by extreme optimism based on these big bank earnings. JP Morgan, Wells, and Citi all reported beat expectations. We've got, kind of the Goldilocks scenario, as a lot of economists continue to call it, meaning inflation is coming down and we've still got near record unemployment numbers. This week is going to be big, George. We've got, the Magnificent Seven, as they've come to be referred, which are essentially the 7 corporations that represent the largest market shares. That means Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, NVIDIA, Tesla, and Meta, all coming out with earnings. So I think one comment I'd like to make, everything, has just become so interrelated. I mean, I think some of the listeners are probably wondering why we constantly talk about the Fed and interest rates.
Yeah.
And it's because, at the meeting next week, July 25th and 26th, if they raise rates, that'll take things to a 22-year high. But, going back to the banks, right? Again, very interrelated. And there was a good article over the weekend talking about how America's appetite for debt, in other words, just the constant demand of the U.S. consumer, has increased again. And so, higher interest rates mean higher credit card interest. Going back to the banks, JP Morgan, America's largest bank, reported 44% year-over-year rise in net interest earning, which is a measure of how much they make from lending.
Wow.
So I think this week, with all the earnings, keep an eye on the markets, but certainly don't make any decisions based on either greed or fear. And if you'd like some guidance, give us a call.
Oh, man, that is the best. So you did not go to the Rockies or to Taylor Swift?
No, and I'm glad you enjoyed that thorough economic report. Now let's get back to pop culture and sports.
I'm sorry. I thought that's where we were going. I'm so sorry, Amy. Listen, Alpine.
That is so much more important than the economy.
I want people to associate you guys with Taylor Swift.
You just walked right into my trap. Was I not just talking about the growing, the pent up, demand and America's appetite for debt?
Yeah, you
right?
did.
Can you imagine how much went on MasterCard and Visa over the weekend in Denver?
So much. Alpine Planning Group is a comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. Investing's a matter of trust. They are prepared to earn yours. Give them a call today, 303-843-0918, 303-843-0918. Amy, Taylor Swift, Duncan, thank you.
Thank you.
Trejo, 120 at-bats, does not have a...
That was a dismal thing to hear there, Billy. Do you have the financial thing? Just stick around. Wheels coming off the bus. 710 KNUS. We are halfway through the Monday show right here. It is, I can't believe I'm saying it out loud, 17 July, year of our Lord 2023. George Brauchler on the George Show with you. 2 hours left. That last hour, other than the greatness with our version of Taylor Swift, Amy Duncan, which, Amy, if you're listening, I should tell you that a texter came in here and said, I looked up Alpine Planning and didn't realize Amy was kind of a hot blonde. I'm just saying that's what the Taylor Swift conversation gets us. That, and she's a genius with the financial stuff. But nonetheless, I thought you'd appreciate hearing that. By the way, I don't ever get that because, one, I'm neither hot nor blonde, though I used to be both, I think. Maybe at the time I was one or two. Anyway, that last hour was a lot of rant that I'm going to tell you right now I'm going to put into a column for the Gazette this week, and I want to push on this because it really infuriates me, the hubris of government to engage in this kind of behavior, but it also super frustrating that the mainstream media treat these two complicitors, these two accessories to this ongoing illegal behavior as some sort of heroes for finally coming forward and filing this lawsuit. The other thing I should tell you is we should find other members of the public to join this suit right now so they can't dismiss it or plea bargain it away or negotiate some sort of settlement. We should no longer care what Epps and Marshall think about the propriety of this lawsuit. Thank you for bringing it forward. Now real Coloradans who aren't complicitors or accessories should take this thing over and join into it. In fact, I should probably talk to some smart attorney on these kinds of issues because I'm not one. And figure out how that can happen because this turns out to be just utter garbage. Nonetheless, and someone else texted in here, someone super smart, and said that it looks like the leadership of the House, the Democrats there, have said that they want to hire a guy named Mark Gruskin to represent them. He is a big-time Democrat operative attorney. He has taken a whole bunch of tax money to represent Dems and all sorts of troubles they get themselves into. For instance, I think he represented Hick when Hick got punched in the neck on him flying. Remember, he took those private jets, flew over to maybe it was private jets, but he flew over to Italy for the Bilderberg and didn't claim any of this stuff. He went in his ex officio capacity, all this. Do you remember all that stuff? Gruskin was the one that represented Hickenlooper through that finding of liability there on his part. And then I think the Republicans wanted to hire John Zackham, son of our former ambassador to Bahrain, Sam Zackham, who's also a former legislator. Great man, by the way, Sam Zackham is. But it looks like they're going to hire, or they have hired, his son John to represent the Republicans on this thing. I'm just interested in knowing why we're defending against this, other than to say, unless it never happened, why would you defend your conduct here? I don't get it. And someone texted in, the special counsel is a perfect idea. I like that one too. And maybe I like it so much because I picture me or somebody like me in that position, just going hammer and tong after government officials. I like the idea that person, man or woman, whatever it is, when they walk into a room, people make a little pee-pee. You know what I mean? Government officials are like, sweet mother of God, don't say anything unless you document it and turn it over to the public. That's the sort of thing I'd want to see happen. In fact, maybe the new rule ought to be the public doesn't have to ask for your emails or your texts. They're just made available online. You are required to post them all online. One, it might encourage more civility. But if the answer is we can't have the same convert crap talks that we have about witnesses and other legislators, if we do that, suck it. Sorry, we didn't hire you for that, you know? Anyway, listen, I want to change gears a little bit here because there's something else that took place in California, but it's the kind of thing that you can see happening here. It likely already has happened here, and that is this: in a place called the Chico Unified School District, there was a parent that found out that their child, and it was an 11-year-old fifth grade student, in 2021 went to a school counselor and said, "Hi, I'm transgender." This is a female 11-year-old, prompting the counselor and the teachers. And I'm reading now from a Sacramento Bee, great newspaper. I don't even think we have to use the paper term anymore. But prompted the counselor and the teacher to begin referring to that girl as a boy and male name and male pronouns. They never told the mom about it. Mom's name is Aurora Regino. And if you're looking for heroes, here's one. Child's mother found out about it and immediately sought answers from the school district. Later, the child, because they're 11, was like, you know what? Actually, it turns out I am still a girl, and started returning to identifying as a girl. And so mom files a lawsuit against the Chico Unified School District. And guess what happened, man? This judge, a federal judge, dismissed the lawsuit that challenged this Chico Unified School District's policy of protecting the gender identities of students from their parents. Are you talking about the legislative subject? Billy was in my ear just telling me there's a caller. And I promise, Frank, I'll get to it just one second. I just want to set the stage for this thing too. I wish I could find the opinion. I can't. But apparently the district court judge, his name's John Mendez, said that the authority of the district to safeguard the information overrode parental rights. What? An 11-year-old? Folks, this is where we're going here. Like, we can applaud the Supreme Court for decisions they make that we like with Dobbs and the other things, or when they strike down, the race-based admissions practices of Harvard or UNC, or they uphold the ability of a Christian website designer, Lori Smith, from having to make forcing her to make messages on things that she disagrees with because of her faith. We can applaud all those things, but this is also the federal court run amok right here. A judge choosing the district's authority to safeguard information of kids from the parents of those kids. I need to see this opinion because I got to see if that characterization is right, because that is incredibly offensive, and it's got to be anathema to the idea of the role that parents play. I don't get it. I don't understand how we've gotten here, but it's pretty outrageous. Before I continue to talk about this and get your thoughts on this, 303-696-1971, the question I would pose to you is, are there circumstances where you would ever support a teacher cutting parents out of the information loop all by themselves? I'm not talking about calling DHS. I'm not talking about calling the police. If you think a kid is at risk, you have those outlets. But the idea that a school district, any school district, can have a policy of obfuscation or maybe even deliberate deceit from a parent because they've decided they know what's best for the health of that kid, I'm sorry, there needs to be a crime for that too. 303-696-1971. Hey, Frank from Golden, you're on 710. What do you think?
Hey, sorry, George, I'm a little bit behind on topic.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
On me, who are the named defendants in this suit brought by Epps?
It's such a great question. I'm reading to you the caption right now, and here's what it says. Elizabeth Epps and Robert C. Marshall, and they're members of the public in this suit, which means you and I should be able to join it, versus the Colorado House of Representatives. Here are the specific names. Julie McCluskey in her official capacity as Speaker of the House, Monica Duran in her official capacity as Majority Leader, Mike Lynch in his official capacity as Minority Leader, the Democrat caucus and the Republican caucus, each of the House. Those are the named people in it so far.
And it seems to me, the other obvious question is that, the way it's styled, it sounds like basically they're doing it as if you were suing like any governmental entity.
That's right. That's what it looks like to me too.
Name a commissioner or something like that.
Yep.
The next question is, since these are governmental entities or people acting in a governmental capacity, who pays for their defense?
That's a great question. I wish I had thought of, Frank, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be taxpayers. When the leadership, that's my guess, because they're being sued in their official capacity for steps that they took to obfuscate while in their roles as leadership. My guess is you and I are going to foot the bill for this lawsuit.
Here's another little wrinkle that dawned on me, is that when they're naming these individuals in their individual capacity in these different intergovernmental entities, they're Republican caucus and Democrat caucus and things like that. It seems to me internally that there's going to be a lot of conflicts, and you're going to have to either waive a lot of conflicts or get a lot more.
Well, what do you
lawyers
mean by
engaged in
conflicts?
this.
What do you mean by conflicts?
I'm thinking like, all right, what if, I don't know, like one of the caucus leaders is, you drag in somebody else who's another representative who participated in some capacity in the caucus, and we're doing these kind of behind door meetings and things like that.
Yeah.
And they could say that basically they were told by leadership to do this or something like that. And now they're named defendants with that leadership. You've got a conflict now. And I think that it's going to get it.
Frank, I don't see the conflict. I don't see the conflict. Tell me.
Well, here's what scares me is that, okay, these people could be individually liable. And I'm saying liable kind of like in a little L way, because I'm not quite sure there is.
I agree with you, Frank. I'm not sure there's any liability here. And maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah, that is. Oh, most definitely. From what I can gather from this, all these governmental entities, whether it's school boards or whatever, or the people running around the state house, they view this statute as just kind of advisory. Like, well, you should probably have this be an open meeting, but if you can't do that, it's okay to talk to others just kind of behind closed doors. And if you get a quorum, such as life,
except for this, that subsection 8 of that statute makes it clear. If you don't comply with the subsection 2 stuff that's in there, then whatever decisions float out of that thing are not valid. Not valid.
Yeah. See, that's what really burns my, because I'm kind of upset like you about this, is that the problem is, like, now we have people saying, well, how many laws or how much of the session could be invalidated? And what it goes back to then is that, so wait a minute, you're telling me we just wasted half a year on a legislative session that is now going to be scrubbed or partially scrubbed? What an enormous waste of taxpayer dollars, whether you liked what went on or not, because it invalidates everything. Now you got to tee up all the same nonsense and all, if it does invalidate it, and redo it. I mean, it's bad enough we have these jokers thinking they have to get their name on as many different laws as they possibly can, when they should be doing the opposite.
Frank, I wonder too, Frank, if I don't think any judge, because remember, all the judges since Bill Owens, who left office 20 years ago, all of those judges have been appointed by Democrat governors, every single one of them, the entire Supreme Court. Now, I'm not telling you that makes them partisan hacks, but I do tell you that my best guess is they're never going to invalidate an entire legislative session, no matter what this leads to. But your point is well made. I think at the end of the day, what I want to see is I want to see depositions. I want to see the cover pulled back on this. And I want to see Republicans and Democrats alike, if you participated in this scheme to the detriment of you and me, Frank, in terms of our access to information, you leave office. You can leave voluntarily and decide not to run, or somehow we can recall you. But there needs to be a giant effort to clean the house. And that includes Epps and Marshall. I don't think they get any cover from the fact that they finally came forward after the session was over. That is utter garbage. I don't know why they didn't. Why doesn't anybody ask them? Why didn't you come forward in January or February or March or April?
Why? And I got to, if they came forward informally or through a filing, the logical filing would have been an injunction to quit violating the statute. They just let it keep going. I mean, I could see a district court judge easily issuing an injunction against these non-open meetings, and then it solved the problem from there forward.
Frank, brilliant. They could have sought an injunction. That's brilliant. Yep. They could have had court intervention to say, stop doing this, you thugs. But they didn't do it. They waited. I love the idea of an injunction. It sounds to me like you know some law stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's a family curse.
Yeah, but this is an important conversation to have, because I think it's going to just drift away, right? When this should be front and center. And if you're Polis or Weiser or the rest of the executive branch, you should be, they're probably right now burning papers or something. I mean, the equivalent of that is just deleting stuff, because we should be turning our focus to every part of government and saying you are no longer allowed to have privileged secret communications with each other under the context of whatever the open meetings law applies to. You talked about the conflict thing, and I was interested to see where you're going, because I don't think any privilege exists, right? Like, I don't think that you can say, well,
so.
I was having this confidential communication with one other person. You don't get to have those conversations. I don't know anything that says you get to do that in private from people, but I'm interested to see where this can go. I feel like, Frank, what you ought to do is use your political and lawyerly skills to get yourself joined into this lawsuit so that we can bring you on a regular basis to talk about how you're going to litigate this thing.
That'd be kind of fun. Maybe I should look into that. Hey, jump into the fray. I don't know. I'm sure they try to, keep me out with standing or something else, but I don't care.
But how could you not have standing? Listen, I'm looking at the complaint right here, and I'm going to the part that you will recognize, and that is where it says parties. And here's the party. Plaintiff Elizabeth Epps is a resident of the city and county of Denver. And then it says she's a member of the House. Plaintiff Robert C. Marshall, blah, 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 blah. I don't know that you have to be a member of the legislature to file a lawsuit under these terms. That the open meetings law doesn't exist for them as legislators. It exists for us as voters and taxpayers.
Actually, that would be interesting. I mean, for heaven's sake.
Frank, we could have you on a regular basis. In fact, the whole state of Colorado ought to join this thing. In fact, the Attorney General represents all of state government except for the legislators. So, in fact, it should be the Attorney General that is part of this damn lawsuit. He should be suing the legislature for this.
Yeah, he won't. He would never do that.
No, I know that, but why not?
Wade into other fights, national fights that give him more attention. No, I agree. He should. I mean, that should be where his focus is, not on whatever, making stupid amicus briefs at the Supreme Court level.
Yeah, exactly. Joining all of these suits that aren't about Colorado, or standing up and defending Colorado's acts. Like, I got no problems with him defending 303 and country or county. No, he had to do that, but he did it poorly.
I'm not against that. Yeah, no. I mean, he has a job to do.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but do it well. But I don't know, George, I'll look into this. Not like I'm swamped with work, if that's okay.
And this wouldn't necessarily be paid with money. It would be paid with glory. Do you know what I mean? Like, later on, they would sing songs about Frank from Golden as the person that helped to blow up the secrecy that covers how government operates in Colorado. We should find other lawyers to do it. I'm going to reach out. Michael Fields went to the University of Colorado School of Law, so he's a genius. I will see if we can't get him. Maybe even our buddy Chris Murray from the big law firm up in Denver. We'll just try to get a bunch of smart attorneys on this thing, you included, and then just take it over from Epps and Marshall, because how can they be trusted? You know what I mean? Like, they were complicit in it for 6 months. How can you trust them? I mean, because they could settle the case, right? Like, this is something that is bigger than Epps and Marshall. In fact, they should be named defendants, on information and belief.
I agree.
They participated.
Didn't they participate?
That's what I want to know. No one from the media asked them, did you guys have the Signal app? Did you receive these texts, and did you screenshot them to capture them, or did you allow them to be deleted? And if you did, how are you not part of the problem?
I know you've been down there to testify on things. Oh God,
so many
like times. But when you go down there,
Frank,
these feckless legislators are texting each other in committee.
It's got to stop. It's ridiculous. And frankly, now I want to see a law, and maybe this is a corollary to whatever it is we petition on. I want to see a law that mandates that the emails go out to the public on a weekly basis, right? Like, you just have to put a link to all your emails back and forth, all your texts. And there should be a law requiring you to only do business on government email or text. That's it. I don't understand how we're not there already. Frank, great phone call, my man. I look forward to you joining the lawsuit, and call us to let us know how it goes.
Yeah, why not? All right.
All right, man. Thanks. Hey, Frank's line is open, 303-696-1971. We have Jay on the line. We will get to Jay, I promise you. I want to tell you, though, about Gay Ribble from Empower Home Team. Gay is part of an organization. They're an organization. It's a company. It's a company that you can reach very easily if you have any interest at all in finding out if now is the right time to sell your house or now is the right time to buy a house. I'm starting to think that the market is immune in some ways to all these interest rate hikes because the prices of homes keep going up. Billy, what was that ridiculous thing you told me about the realtors no longer? What was that thing?
Realtors no longer evaluate homes under $500,000 in Denver, part because there are so few of them, it doesn't matter for them to even review them. And number two, because there's so few houses in that market, it doesn't pay for them to invest their time evaluating them because they don't last more than a cup of coffee.
My God, man.
Yeah, if you had a house under $500,000, they said you will have multiple offers, multiple offers in a day.
My goodness, man. Listen, you can rely on any old realtor to do the heavy lifting on this thing, but why not turn to an expert in the field and someone who is committed to this community? They didn't just move here, lived here for decades, grew up here, started their own family here, started a business here. That's Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team, Keller Williams. They helped 1,100 families last year. Most realtors sell about 2 or 3 houses a year. This team, 1,100 families helped last year. They sell more. They sell not only higher volume, they get more money than your average realtor, and they sell more quickly than your average realtor. If you're looking for someone with that kind of expertise and the ability to get you in your dream home for less than other realtors, then you got to call 833-301-SOLD, 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 or check her out at gayhasthebuyers.com. That's gay, G-A-Y-E, hasthebuyers.com. When we come back, Jay and others in the text coming in want to hear from you. We'll continue the topic. Hey, listen, I will continue to have this conversation all day long because I am really pissed off that the legislature would do this. I'll let you know if we're able to get any legislators on to have this conversation. It's George Brauchler, George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. We were initially starting a conversation about a school district that was out there trying to hide information about gender transition identity stuff out in Chico, the Chico Unified School District, and a federal judge's decision to dismiss a lawsuit against them, saying that their interest in protecting the information of the child trumped the interest of the parents in knowing that information, which sounds like the world is turned upside down when you hear stuff like that. But we didn't get there yet because we had the conversation about this legislature and this explosive lawsuit that raises probably more questions than it answers in terms of what the legislature was doing. Billy reached out to Steve Zansberg. He's the attorney for Epps and Marshall. He's going to check with his clients. I presume if they listen to the last hour, they will not want Steve to come on. But I think that there's an opportunity here to get some questions answered, not so much about them. I don't expect him to give up information about why they were so quiet and complicit for 6 months, but questions procedurally about what's next. Can anybody join in on this lawsuit? All that other stuff. I think all of that is something. In fact, why couldn't somebody file a separate lawsuit? Because the idea that two people who were part of the crime, and I say crime in air quotes because it's not a criminal violation, but weren't part of the illegal conduct or just sat willingly by apparently for 6 months while it happened. Maybe they're not the best people to prosecute this issue on behalf of Coloradans. But that conversation has spawned some other, I think, a great phone call from Frank from Golden, who we're trying to get to jump in on this lawsuit. We'll see. He's a smart attorney. We're going to go to Jay. You're on 710 KNUS. Jay, what are your thoughts, man?
Oh, I appreciate your passion about what this legislature is doing to the state.
Good Lord.
So get as mad as you like. Mad as
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. That's network, by the way. Go on. What did you think? What are your thoughts, man?
Well, actually, I wanted to chat with you for a moment because we're all being affected by the Gallagher Amendment, and I just can't believe that we aren't like circling the Capitol every day with lassos. I have a property, one, and we have rentals, and one of them, the Gallagher or the removal of Gallagher, or I don't know how they did that, is increased taxes by $425,000 in 1 year. We're amending it and all that, but that's just kind of a joke. And I don't know if you know a lot about what's going on with legislation to try to get Gallagher back in, but I'm reading that the amended Gallagher says that the method for assessment for property was actual value. 7 different factors are used, but after Gallagher was put in, the amendment established just 3 costs: cost, market, and income. And, what they're trying to do, I think, is also take a lot of homes away from wonderful people that have worked their whole life to pay for their home. They retired, mortgages paid off. They want to have a little nice time at the end of their life, and they're jacking everybody's rates up everywhere. And that's commercial property as well. And remember, all of you renters, your landlords are going to raise your rates beyond belief because they're going to pass it on.
Yeah.
So what do you think we should do?
Well, I think there are steps being taken, and maybe we reach out to Michael Fields from Advanced Colorado Institute. In addition to the efforts to defeat HH, which, as you know, is and apparently completely on brand for the legislature and this governor, is to use it as a Trojan horse to blow up all of your Tabor returns for eternity. Without ever using the word Tabor. That's one half of it, the efforts to defeat that. But there is a measure that I know Michael's working on to put on the ballot, a cut or freeze in property tax rates, put that on the ballot too, which I think is genius. I don't know that we're ever going to breathe life back into Gallagher. And it had its own flaws, but those flaws should have been fixed instead of blowing this whole thing up. But, you're asking good questions, Jay, and things that we can't count on the legislature to fix because they are the problem. They're not the solution to the problem. They are the problem. And you remember when they put on the death to Gallagher thing on the ballot, everybody told them this was coming. If you do this, this is what will happen. They did it. They got what they wanted from us, by the way. Colorado voters, took Gallagher down. You can't blame the legislature for that vote. But then all of a sudden they showed up and they're like, this is so super serious. We're going to deal with it with something we force onto you in the last couple days of the legislative cycle. They actually didn't pitch it that way, but that's how it came out. And now we're stuck. So, man, what I want to see is I want to see the rich folks here, Dems and Republicans alike, put money into an ongoing effort to just simply do an end run around this hapless legislature and put more and more things on the ballot for you and I to vote for, because you cannot trust the legislature.
No, you can't. They also misrepresented the ballot. I read it, and I believe that the average person reading that removal of Gallagher was tricked.
Yep.
So if we had just a simple
Yep,
thought,
I get
if everybody listening to the radio maybe your station would help point them into a GoFundMe so we can hire law firms to go ahead and go after them and actually really expose the situation. Because a lot of people, I know I talked to somebody in Wheat Ridge yesterday about it. Their house is $250,000 just off I-70 over there by Sin.
Yeah.
And it went up to $490,000. These are postage stamp houses. And he's worked all his life for this house.
That's a lot.
Come on.
Dude, that's a lot.
Well, and it's free-wielding, taking property away from people, because the real estate folks are licking their chops.
I wonder,
these houses are going to go for sale.
I wonder if that isn't going to be part of what happens, whether it was intended or not, if people just become priced out of their homes because they can't pay the increased taxes.
Right.
They haven't done anything wrong except own a house and pay their mortgage. Jay, would you forgive me? I got to go, man. I got to cut away to a break, because when we come back, we're going to be joined by Danielle Jurinsky. Different topic, but under the same umbrella. Government is broken. Today, and the news today and the show today is as much about government just straight up broken. I can't take it anymore, folks. I mean, the law is irrelevant. That's what we're finding out from our legislators. That's what we're finding out from, it looks like, what we're going to hear about with some investigators about Arapahoe County Human Services. It's what we're going to find out about the executive branch, held the Supreme Court. Government is, I don't know, it's our master, and the laws are irrelevant to try to control it and make it open and transparent to us. We need huge system-wide change, and we're not getting it. Stick around. We're going to talk with City Councilwoman from Aurora, Danielle Jurinsky, when we come back. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KDF. Well, the hits keep coming right here on the George Show, 710 KNUS, as you know, and we've been following this story. No, we don't have a Dr. Death Dentist podcast, but we've been following the story with friend of the show, friend of mine, friend of Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky, who joins us now. Danielle, thanks for taking time out of your morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me, George.
So you sent me the link to this thing like on Friday or whenever it broke, and I don't know. I want to say I was surprised, but I guess I was surprised at how not surprised I was. But it turns out Arapahoe County, they looked into the fact that Robin Nicetta, who victimized you and tried to victimize your son through a series of false allegations designed to seek revenge against you for having the audacity to call her lesbian lover chief of police. Trash, I think is the word, on Stephen Tubbs' show. Most of the folks listening to this show don't know who Stephen is. He's on in the afternoon. I'm kidding. They did their own internal investigation about whether or not there was, quote, systemic fraud. Tell us what they said.
Well, let me clarify that actually. So that wasn't an Arapahoe County internal investigation. So back in September, a report came out from the state Department of Human Resources. And when that report came out, and I also have that report, George, but when that report came out in September, it highlighted a lot of concerns that the State Department of Human Services had with Arapahoe County DHS. So at that point,
Colorado
the State
Department of Human Services. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Thank you.
So at that point, after that report came out, they turned it over to, and I'm gonna use air quotes here, an independent third party to investigate Arapahoe County. So this report that came out on Friday, this is a report actually done by this independent group. So this isn't an internal investigation. So this report comes out on a Friday afternoon, like 100-page report that they tried to slide out on a Friday afternoon, thinking that nobody was paying attention. And this report basically gives a glowing review now, so very contradictory to what the state's concerns were back in September. Oh yeah. So this report gives a glowing review of Arapahoe County DHS. No concerns, nothing to worry about, nothing to see here, no supervisory issues. But buried deep in this report, page 63, in fact, George, they admit to having to have fired a second caseworker for fraud and having to fire 4 additional employees in Arapahoe County DHS, which they did not disclose the reasons or what their positions were. So they've admitted to an additional 5 total people being fired in the last year.
What?
They bury it deep in this report, slide it out on a Friday afternoon, like I said, but it is glowing. And Commissioner Chair Carrie Warren Gully, God bless her heart, George, she gives this quote. She gives this quote that we are so happy here in Arapahoe County. We're doing such great work. We're so proud of ourselves. Big pat on the back. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Here's something else, and this is a quote from the article. You, in traditional Danielle Jurinsky wilting flower tradition, this is your quote. I'm in shock right now. We have 2 liars that affected potentially hundreds of families, and yet you give an A+ rating? The hypocrisy in this report is huge. Dang.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're proud of the fact that they only discovered 2 liars, and that's 2 liars that they're admitting to. What were the other 4 individuals fired for?
Yeah, what were they fired for? Or they moved on? I think some of them, they said that they quit or something like that. Were they all fired?
5 of them were fired. There's additional that have quit. Like the caseworker that was actually assigned to my case, she's no longer with Arapahoe County, and I do believe that she quit on her own accord, but I've never been able to read. We'll find out in discovery when we get to discovery how this all has went down. But no, they admitted to 5 additional employees being terminated, and 1 they said specifically for fraud. So you're happy that in 1 year, only 2 liars have been discovered, 2 liars that could potentially have affected hundreds of families.
I don't know if they're happy, but I am intrigued by the fact that they raise these concerns, they conduct their investigation, and not only did they come back and not find anything dreadfully wrong, but they went ahead and said, hey, everything's pretty awesome here. Was that the tone of the report?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Everything is awesome. There's no concerns, no supervisory concerns. When in fact, if you look at the actual facts of my case alone, there are major supervisory concerns, and Michelle Dossi is still the same supervisor of Arapahoe County DHS. The whole thing is bogus. This is a complete whitewash. And I'm telling you right now, these 3 independent investigators, let's talk about them. One is with Denver Department of Human Services, so a government employee. Yeah. Another one is the director of the Larimer County Department of Human Services, another government employee. And the third one teaches social work, is a big wig professor up at CSU. And if you dig into this guy, he has received over 20 government, local, county, and state of Colorado contracts for work in just the past few years. So you think they were going to come out with anything other than a glowing report, these 3?
Danielle, I don't know. I don't know what to make of all this, but it smells funny. Government absolving government. It makes it sound like it's just these 2 rogue fraudsters. That's like, there was no supervision problem. They were all being supervised properly. It's just these 2 people figured out a way to beat the system. Thank goodness we discovered it. Like, what? They don't have to change a single thing. Were there any recommendations? Like, you should now do this moving forward as a supervisor?
No, just nothing, absolutely nothing to see here, George. Nothing to see here. So all of these families, all of these people coming forward, this village building, this army building, this coalition forming, they're all lying. They're all lying. I've seen proof. I've seen evidence. I've seen these parents that have come forward and yes, a lot of them say, I'm the only one that's ever taken the time to listen to their story or believe them. But everyone's lying. Everyone is.
Yeah, Danielle, this is all great stuff. Thank you for making time to update us on this. I want to stay in touch and stay on top of the criminal case as well, because methinks somebody's going to prison and it isn't anyone on the radio right now. Good luck fighting for Aurora, and we'll talk with you in the near future.
All right. Have a good day, George.
See ya. That was Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky. Always love hearing from her. Listen, 9 o'clock hour. I'm going to try to get back to this thing with the parents because it really got me amped up. In fact, Billy and I had some conversations off air. We might have them on air. You stick around to find out what they were. It's George Brauchler on 7. Hey, it's George Brauchler right back with you here, 710 KNUS. Doing our best to manage really all the goings on of government, especially the ones they don't want us to know about or the things that they just continue to crush good folks on when it comes to exercising your rights, not only as a citizen or as someone who wants transparency in government, a la the legislature, but also parenting. And so let me just bring you back up to speed here on what has taken place. There is a lawsuit that was filed by the mom of an 11-year-old who had gone to school officials in the Chico Unified School District and said, hey, I did not realize that my daughter had come to you and said they were a boy and they wanted to be called a boy, and you kept that secret from me, and I'm going to sue to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And that suit is premised upon a policy that the Chico Unified School District has based off of the California Department of Education. And I'm reading to you from Frequently Asked Questions, and it's called School Success and Opportunity Act, which already sounds stupid. Assembly Bill 1266, Frequently Asked Questions. And here's question number 6. May a student's gender identity be shared with the student's parents, other students, or members of the public? Now, listen, as to other students and members of the public, go pound sand. You don't get to know that stuff. Okay, I get that's an easy one. Why they would throw that in with students' parents is just a matter of watering down the parents' authority here. And this is their answer. A transgender or gender nonconforming student may not express their gender identity openly in all contexts, including at home. Like as if it's just another context. Like home, the mall, online, they're all the same. Like that's how they see it here. Revealing a student's gender identity or expression to others, because that's all parents are, folks, in California. They are part of the others. They're just some other group, not the student. There's nothing special about parents. They're like strangers. Revealing a student's gender identity or expression to others may compromise the student's safety. May compromise the student's safety. Thus, preserving a student's privacy is of the utmost importance. The right of transgender students to keep their transgender status private is grounded in California's anti-discrimination laws as well as federal and state laws. Disclosing that a student is transgender without the student's permission may, not will, may violate California's anti-discrimination law by increasing the student's vulnerability to harassment and may violate the student's right to privacy against the parents. And then they go on to list 3 of these laws that they think help protect them from having to disclose this. Who cares about other students and members of the public? That's just stupid. To lump parents in with them is to diminish the role of parents. Here's the 3 laws. The Public Records Act request. The Education Code requires that schools keep student records private. Private information such as transgender status or gender identity falls within the code requirement and should not be released. I'll tell you what, folks, it doesn't keep it private from the parents. Because you know what falls under those school records? Grades. Are you telling me a student could say, I don't want you to tell my parents about my grades? Because honestly, I'm concerned that my parents won't be welcoming and accepting of my grades. You think for a minute that the school district and the state of California, maybe I'm just, as I'm saying it out loud, I'm starting to think, my God, California is capable of anything. But that they would say, that's right. I'm worried about the safety of the child if they reveal their academic performance to their parents. Therefore, I'm not going to reveal their academic performance to their parents. Can you see that happening? So please don't use the Public Records Act as a way to obfuscate the information that mom and dad should have. Here's another one. Family Educational and Privacy Rights, FERPA. It's a federal law that protects the privacy of students' education records. It provides that schools may only disclose information in school records within written permission from a student's parents. What? So FERPA is one of the bases for them denying parents getting access to whether their kid wants to be transgender or not. They cite a federal law that says it requires written permission from a student's parents to reveal the information to anyone else. But in this description, they've combined parents with strangers, with the public and other students. Finally, the California Constitution. Minors enjoy a right to privacy under Article 1, Section 1 of the California Constitution that is enforceable against private parties and government officials. What? Is it enforceable against mom and dad? Huh. This is all a bunch of garbage. And you would think, of course, mama, the 11-year-old, whose daughter, by the way, has gone back to saying, no, I think I'm a girl. I don't want to do the boy thing anymore. That the federal judge, of course, would here rule in her favor over this ridiculous policy instead. The federal judge this week, his name is John Mendez, U.S. District Court Judge in California. He dismissed the lawsuit. He said in his ruling, and I'm still trying to find the exact verbiage here. I'm still trying to find it. But it says that the authority of the district to safeguard the information overrode parental rights. It goes on to say that the Chico staff, they weren't forcing students to adopt a different identity or telling them to keep it secret. Rather, they were just allowing students to choose who they wanted to share their identities with. The only exception was for health reasons. This dude's from Sacramento. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get what's going on here, folks. The idea that a school district could adopt a policy that says we get to keep secrets from mom and dad. And this was the conversation that Billy and I had way back before the beginning of the show, because this was a topic Billy found. I thought it was a good one. And that was the idea that, well, what if they think the kid's going to be at risk from exposing this to their parents? I got to know what risk means. And I think they do too. If risk is mom and dad will yell at me. Mom and dad will tell me, no, we disagree. Mom and dad will tell me, no, we're going to go seek mental health treatment. Mom and dad will say we're going to church. Suck it. I don't, you have that is the purview of parents. If it's, I think mom and dad are going to physically harm me, then you pick up the phone and call DHS. You pick up the phone and call the police. But I do not see a universe in which I trust teachers to make the decision about what information gets to come home. How about this? Do you remember? They have no problems, by the way, using our kids as a conduit to advance the cause of the teachers union. You remember that? Even in Douglas County, when they wanted to increase the pay of teachers, by the way, an effort, by the way, I was supportive of. They were sticking things in the papers to go home to parents to advocate for teachers' pay by saying, historically, we haven't received these. This is what we get paid compared to other people. So they have no problems using students as a conduit to get their own politically motivated, self-interested information to parents. If your kid acts out in school, they don't keep that a secret from you. They call you into the school to say, hey, Timmy is acting up. If your kid brings a knife or gun to school, they are going to call the authorities. Drugs to school, I want to believe they're going to call the authorities, but my guess is they don't want the bad press, so they're probably not. But when it comes to the transgender thing, I mean, if your kid said, I'm feeling suicidal, they would have to tell parents. If the kid's feeling, I feel like I'm a boy or a girl, they're allowed to decide for you whether you get to know. I'd be super pissed off if that happens. Their opinion of the safety of my home only matters to the extent they're willing to back it up by calling the authorities. If they don't know or they don't think they have enough to call the police, then shut it. My kid, not yours. Whatever time you think you have with them to make them better people or make them smarter, that comes to a natural end. My authority and my obligation to care for them both before, during, and after, that goes on for eternity, man. You make mistakes in judgment about my kids. You don't wear it. Nobody holds you accountable. When you miseducate my kids, or you do a horrible job of teaching them and they end up getting an F, or they failing later in life, do you know how much money you get taken out of your paycheck? None. Do you know how much heartache you have to spend worrying about them moving forward through the rest of life? None. The regret that they have over making the decision to engage in body part lopping off things, when they regret that, you know how much you're going to have to deal with that? None. You know who does? Mom and dad, who would die for them. This is nonsense. 303-696-1971. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm becoming more and more concerned about our ability to govern ourselves when decisions like this get made over the top of us. Russ from Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. Russ, what do you think?
Well, I think the parents that would die for their children would be an action, not a pronoun, but an action. Now, a pronoun fits into the civil rights category. So that's what we got going on here. And that's what we've had going on since 64. MLK said it himself. Judge me by my character, not my skin color, not my physical characteristics, not my pronoun values, basically. So when you judge people only on their LGBTQ or their trans, not what they do, not what their parents do, not what they're thinking, not what Christian or religion they're going to, none of those actions, verbs in other words. I'm a verb, by the way. I'm not a noun. Almost like I'm a MAGA, not a Republican. But that's what's going on, George. When you put everything in a noun form, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. You can manipulate
Russ,
ideas.
is this
you
that
can manipulate
issue?
everything.
Russ, is this that issue, though? Like, listen, I don't deny any adult the ability to call themselves whatever the hell they want. I don't care about that. What I care about is in this context. I care about in this context the idea that a kid who may still believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny, a kid who we will not let make the decision to go see rated R or rated PG-13 movies, a kid we don't trust to vote, to own stuff, to contract, to drive a car, that kid can go into some counselor and say, I think I want to be a girl, or I think I want to be a boy. And that counselor gets to keep that secret from the parents if they have some subjective belief that it would visit some harm upon them. I don't care what they think.
Yeah, but it's a noun. Once they say I want to be a boy or a girl, then you're getting into nouns again. Then you're getting into civil rights again. You see what I mean? Once you start getting into nouns, like you said, oh, they should be able to tell a kid whether they can drive or not, because that's an action. That's an action. And these are responsible actions. These are actions that are regulated by parents, even by government. But once you get into nouns, that's why the gays want to say, I'm born this way. I didn't turn out this way. I'm born. Because once they say they're born, then they're a noun. Then that falls into the civil rights category. Then they have protection. Then they can manipulate society however the hell they want from the noun base. That's why woke itself calls itself pronoun. Get it? Don't you get it? Didn't everybody pick up on that? They gave their secret away. They gave it to us, and we're not obeying it. We're not paying attention. They gave us their secret. They are pronouns. They gave it away.
Yeah,
we're not listening.
I'm not as worried about the idea that kids can be conflicted about things when they're growing up. I accept that. And I don't know enough about it to say whether or not they can know at age 11. And frankly, I can't remember what Rebecca told us when she was in here about when she knew, but I think it was pretty early on in her life. I don't question those things. I question a policy that elevates that conflict, that internal conflict, that choice, even if it's not a choice, whatever it is, that they elevate that to such a protected position that they would keep mom and dad from knowing about it.
Well, again, that falls under civil rights, and that's more important than mom and dad knowing about it.
I just simply don't believe that. I know that you're being provocative with that. I do not believe that.
I'm not. No, George. This is what our country has been for 60 years. Civil rights is major. It's strong. It's very powerful.
Yeah. I don't deny civil rights or the role that they play, but when did that become a substitute for parental knowledge?
because it's a noun, it overrules the actions of what is parental knowledge or parental actions. Again, actions aren't as important as nouns. That's what civil rights is based on. That's what it's all based on, the nouns and the civil rights. And civil rights is based on nouns. Oh, I'm sorry, MLK said it shouldn't be, but it is. It has turned that way, and I'm not against.
Well, hang on.
Against,
civil rights was premised on the idea that the nouns were keeping people from exercising their rights, right? Like MLK said, please don't judge me on being black. And so we have a law that says you can't keep people from voting and holding jobs and doing other things because they're black. There's nothing
black
wrong
is
with
a
that.
Noun. Black is a noun.
Well,
the black term is a noun term, is a noun term.
But so what? Isn't it true? That's what was happening. People were being judged because of their nouns, and he's saying we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, but they're doing it now. Okay, and I'm saying I agree with MLK. I agree with what he said. Character, not nouns. Which character, again, you got to put it in the action category, which is what you're complaining about. Parents can't do anything because when it falls under the lines of their actions, all of a sudden, hey,
Russ, we lost you for a minute there,
puts
man.
him in the noun category again, which overrules the actions anybody can say against that. Again, that's why the nouns have taken over the verbs when civil rights, and that is what is wrong. And when you have that, yeah, all the stuff you're talking about, parents should this, should that, people should this, should that, good actions versus bad actions. Actions don't count anymore when you're talking civil rights. That this noun movement or BLM, woke,
but Russ, actions do matter because the Civil Rights Act. Hold on, the Civil Rights Act of 64, 68, and 72 all exist to govern the actions that people take based on whatever that noun is that you're describing. That's why it is. It is about action.
But it's based on nouns. Yeah, the new Civil Rights Code of today is strictly solely based on noun. That's why you can have your transies coming out.
Russ, what law is out there that isn't based on nouns?
Just nouns. Civil rights is just nouns today. Okay. That's the law.
Hold on, Russ.
That's what it's based
on. Is religion a noun?
Religion is an action.
Okay, then you're protected.
A belief is an action.
I know, but you're protected in your faith as well. That's part of civil rights. Isn't?
No. They don't know what religion is and how to relate it into their noun world. They don't know how to put religion any more than they know how to put parental rights into it. You can say, yeah, it's protected. Yeah. So what? But it doesn't happen. It's not really protected. And action-wise, as far as government, as far as civil rights goes, they don't protect religion. They say they do, but they don't even know what
but Russ,
is.
and Russ, I got to go. Thank you for the phone call. You've obviously put a lot of thought into this. I just think you're wrong. I disagree with you. I don't think it's just about nouns, especially if you're going to define religion as action or belief or faith, and it's different. And then the only way you can make the noun theory work is to say, but they don't really protect religion when clearly they do. What the hell was 303 creative about? What was Jack the Cake Baker about? Even though that was more due processy, I just disagree with that. I appreciate the call on that. And Tim from Brighton and everybody else calling in right now, Russ's line is open at 303-696-1971. I promise to get to you. Let me tell you a guy who's all about action. And that is Dan Caplis. Dan Caplis has been fighting the good fight, and that is action in courtrooms and outside of courtrooms on behalf of victims forever. And I said this before, but I'm just going to keep pushing it. This is a guy that doesn't make decisions about who to represent based on the nouns that Russ was talking about. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the sexual identity, sexual orientation, the color, the gender, the religion. He doesn't care about anything like that. The only gatekeeper, the only pre-qualification you need to get Dan's help is that you're a victim. Right? Like you were victimized by somebody's negligence or recklessness or intentional conduct in some cases. That's it. You meet that minimum horrible threshold and you get to have a champion of Dan Caplis's caliber fighting for you. He and Bobber do this every single day. They've been doing it for years. Dan for decades. All you have to do to get that help That non-judgmental help for you, the guy that will stand up toe-to-toe, eye-to-eye with the other guys. It is David versus Goliath, but I got to tell you, you have a pretty damn well-resourced David on your side. He's got a lot of slings and a lot of rocks to throw. It's called 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check him out at DanCaplislaw.com. Caplis is C-A-P-L-I-S, DanCaplislaw.com. When we come back, Tim, the texts that are coming in, you and me, George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. We are talking about this, I don't know, this order from a judge. Somebody texted in and said it looks like that the judge's order, I have just not seen it, is based upon the fact that this person failed to state a claim under 1983. That's how it got to federal court, this lawsuit, a violation of 1983, which is a civil rights lawsuit. Failed to state some sort of a claim. Maybe it was a 12B6 ruling, which is saying if you take every single thing these people say as fact, it still doesn't amount to a claim that can be successfully litigated. That could happen. I just don't have it. I don't have the order. Nonetheless, I'd like to, but at least based on this article, it looks like that this federal judge ruled that the interest, this is how it's characterized in the article, the interests of the school district in protecting the child outweigh any parental interest in knowing. If I can get the order, I can tell you whether that's legit or not. But what frustrates me is that there is a policy at all in California that in essence encourages teachers to substitute their own judgment about what's best for this kid or any kid for parents. And I worry about that happening here in the state of Colorado, because as you know, in some issues, we're California Junior. In other issues, we are the tip of the spear for California. And this is that section. In this section, the frequently asked questions, may a student's gender identity be shared with the student's parents? And then they lump the parents in with other students or members of the public as if they're all just the same. Anybody not the student, as if it's just the same. And they said that, yes, preserving a student's privacy is of the utmost importance. Not their grades, not their physical health. You can't keep that secret. Even mental health, you can't keep that secret. But if a kid shows up, and in this case, it was an 11-year-old in the Chico Unified School District, shows up and says, I want to be a boy, that gets to be kept secret from the parents based upon some teacher's subjective determination that it would be better for the kid. And I just simply don't care what teachers think in that regard. What I can't believe too is that they would, listen, if you're an educator out there and you think that this is A-okay and that you know best in some circumstances what information parents ought to have and not have, you got to call and defend your position. Use any name you want. You can call yourself Billy. We don't care. 303-696-1971. Going to the phone lines. Tim from Brighton, you're on 710. What do you think about all this, Tim?
Yes, sir. George,
yes, sir.
Number one, you doing good?
Superman does good, buddy. I do well.
Correct adverb. Okay, you got me. I've been listening to this, and something keeps running through my mind.
Yeah, what is it?
Certain politicians and certain agendas. Say, for example, when you look at agendas, Marxist, Communist, the United Nations, certain politicians in this country who are ultimately destroying the power of the citizen, but as equally as powerful, they are destroying the power and the coherency, the value of the family in various ways. This is just another way. I'm just thinking is there's something about all this that's congealing in my mind. I've been listening and watching these people for decades. The slow progression, incremental, step by step, where the family, when you look at it, you know this, the family is the cohesive glue of a culture. Without it, culture is basically dead in the water.
Well,
and I think
generation to generation, you're right. There's no better vehicle for the transmission of culture and values and all that other stuff than through the family. I agree with you on that. So I don't know if it's the end of the culture right that moment, but certainly it weakens it for the future.
Well, we're being weakened severely. I mean, I'm a kid of the 50s. I remember a totally different world than what I see with around me now. Now, I'm flexible. I know how to move in this, but I look at this in the disintegration of this culture. It's astonishing. And there has been basically from the late 60s, well, actually before the late 60s. If you want to, you can go and look at Hefner in 1953 when he threw Playboy out there. Just step by step, every little bit in the pot has been part of this going against the nature of family.
Tim, do you think things back then were better? And it doesn't have to be universally, but I'm interested in knowing, do you think things were better back then than now?
Absolutely.
In certain things, yes.
On everything. I mean, hell, there was a racist issue. I didn't grow up personally with that. I had elders I looked up to. 4 of my elders, it's 4 different ethnicities. And we were all peeps. There was never any racist crap in our house, and I loved that. That's how Mom raised me.
Well, they did that right, but you can imagine that's not every house. There is some aspect of this where, and you bring up a good point, racism, right? Like, is it the duty of the schools to educate the students about something or expose them to things that are contrary to what mom and dad think? Like, racism didn't end overnight, and for many it hasn't ended at all. At least that's how they feel about it. But it took generations for us to break ourselves from that. That had to be in part with the school's efforts here. So I'm not opposed to the idea that the school should carry forward the values and principles that we all agree, at least through some kind of consensus, that we subscribe to. But this feels very different than that. This is not educating the kids about how, hey, transgendered kids are just like you and me. That's not what this is. This is something I worry about that is much more insidious, which is, as you pointed out, trying to chisel a wedge between mom and dad and the kids they raise.
Exactly it. And it's not only that, it's even more powerful in the sense that it is a direct attack on the power and the moral and what I'm going to call spiritual right authority with their children. Of course, a lot of this culture doesn't recognize the spiritual, and I'm not going to try to force that on somebody, but at the same time, the parents are, I consider it sacred. You're raising kids, that's a sacred thing. And this culture is, like I said, it's disintegrating. I think you're going to see more of this. Our court system is hurting.
I need to know more about the order. The policy is what bugs me, that it got upheld on grounds other than, hey, you didn't state a claim that couldn't, that I understand. But if it's for some other reason, something substantive, I'd be very disappointed. But the other part of this is I don't want to leave the conversation with the idea that the government has no role in intervening between parents that pose an immediate risk to their kids and others. Like this. This is why we have guardians ad litem. This is why we have DHS. This is why we have the termination of parental rights. And it only really happens in extreme circumstances. I don't disagree with that. Some parents shouldn't have kids, right? Like, they are abusive. Some parents do drugs while they're pregnant and they make their kid. I want the state to have some role here, but this is way different than that, right? This is not using due process to figure out a way to protect kids. This is just some teachers who've decided, for whatever reasons they've invented in their own minds, let's keep a secret from mom and dad. If you're one of those teachers, I want to be clear, you're wrong. You're wrong every single time. If your concerns are that grave, take them to the SRO. Take them to the school district, take them to the Department of Human Services. But please don't ever think you get to decide what to withhold from me about my kids. That is garbage.
I totally agree with. And I didn't mean to deviate from that when I'm going back.
No, I get it.
Our culture, but George, when I look back at things when I was a kid, when I was in elementary school in the 50s, we didn't have this kind of crap. We didn't have these problems. If something was wrong, parents were told. End of story. They didn't hold stuff. And if
there were other things. It sounds like you got raised in the right house, though, Tim, with the, hey, no racism, all that other stuff. But that is a legitimate issue from back in the day, right? Like, gay folks didn't come out of the closet, and black folks sat at other counters and all that other stuff.
Well, they did that, and that just, I was going to use a back alley word there. I despise that. I grew up in Boulder, so we didn't have that huge issue there, except one of my elders, people I looked up to, happened to be black, Native American, white, black, and Mexican. Now we say Latino, but these were people I loved and respected, and we were kind of like a Heinz 57 gathering, and I love it. I also spent those years before we moved to Colorado in Indianapolis. Racist. There was, I saw stuff on the street that just, I look back at it, I was like, man, this is just insane.
Yeah.
And it's, the thing about, and a lot of the, okay, I'm going to shut up because I'll get on a soapbox.
That's all right, man. That's what we're here for, is to talk about that. Tim, let me cut you loose, by the way. Great phone call. I appreciate the conversation. 303-696-1971 is Tim's line. There were some things that were better about the past, but there were some things that were not better. And Billy was talking about this too. I mean, it was not an open, welcoming environment for people of all races or religions or sexual orientation and all that stuff. That was true. I think those are good things that we've made progress on, but sweet goodness, the idea that in the name of one of these things with an 11-year-old kid, 18, 19, 20-year-old, you don't want to tell mom and dad? Fantastic. In fact, let me tell you, Trey, we've been dealing with Trey and the muscular dystrophy forever, for at least 9 years now. And he has that app, the healthcare app that I've got that allowed me at one point to access Amanda and Trey and Jeff and Graham, all their health stuff. I can't access Trey's anymore because he turned 18 automatically. I haven't been able to access Amanda's forever. I can only access Jeff and Graham this isn't about the adult thing. You're 18, you're a senior in high school. There's certain things you want to keep from mom and dad. I feel very differently about it. This was a case of an 11-year-old, and I'm sorry. I just don't buy the idea that teachers know more than I do about the best way to raise my kids. And if the answer is, well, George, not every parent is like you. There are some okay, that's none of your business. Unless you think it rises to the level that they're at risk of some sort of physical harm, that's just none of your business. Who cares what you think about their parenting? You're hired to help educate these kids. If you think something triggers mandatory reporting, then make your mandatory report. But please, oh, please don't try to justify for me how keeping information from kids is just better for them, like you know something about that. You don't. You don't. You're hired to educate, period. 303-696-1971. Here's a couple things. Nouns you can control easier than verbs. George, I imagine that's Russ. Joan and I have been going back and forth about 55,000 students leaving Jeffco. Maybe it's true, Joan, but it's a school district right now of 77,000 people. That would mean that over 40% of the students left after COVID. I just can't imagine that's true. I mean, if there's numbers out there that bear it up, Joan, you shoot me the links to those things. I just don't see it. Another text, there's no consensus among citizens. Some want to still discriminate by race while others want merit. Teachers would never be implementing their views on children. Should never be implementing their views on children. They should teach academics, not activism. 100%. I agree 100% with that. Before we go, though, for this last break, I do want to tell you about my dentists, Doctors Richter and Snyder, and the cool support staff that they have at Twin Aspen Dental Center. Shiloh and the team out there, they'll take such good care of you. If you go there once, you will stay with them. And so that's the challenge. I dare you, I double dog dare you to take advantage of all the great stuff that they do at Twin Aspen Dental Center, from sedation dentistry to the bridges, the crowns, all that great heavy lifting that they do. I double dog dare you to go down there and just get your teeth cleaned with them and looked at, and not stay with them as your dentist. I don't think it can be done. Conveniently located office at Parker Road and Stroh, easy to get to, right by Lehman Academy. You can check them out at Twin Aspen Dental Center, all 4 words put together.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com, or you can call them at 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. That's the Twin Aspen Dental Center Challenge. Let us know how it goes. When we come back, Robert from Littleton and other folks will get to you. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler right back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Chelsea and her clan of really cute kids and her ginormous husband, really big. Note to self, don't make fun of Chelsea because holy smokes, that's a big, big fella. Cute kids. I was going to try to put them on air, but I think we were all concerned about what I would say, not so much what they would say. Listen, I'm going to go right to the phone lines here. Maybe the last call of the show forever. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. It's Robert from Littleton. You're on 710. Robert, what do you think?
Morning, sir.
Hey.
Briefly, the job of teaching principles, morals, ethics, and values is, at least in my mind, the sole province of parents. That is not the job of the public education system, period, full stop. The job of the public education system is to educate children with regard to the subjects that they are going to need to be successful in life: reading, writing, arithmetic, etc. It really bothers me when teachers take it upon themselves, even if they're well-intentioned, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, to instruct a child in cultural norms or values or something like that. It's just not their job. It just isn't. I have no other way to put that.
Do you feel like, Robert, what if mom and dad are believers in white supremacy? Just as an example, I'm just coming up with some extreme thing, or they're, something like that, or just straight up Nazism, they're anti-Jew or whatever. What do you say to that? What do you have, if you have a teacher that's sending your kid home with books that talk about how evil Nazism is and that America had to go over to Europe to help defeat the scourge and all that, what do you do with that?
I find it incredibly abhorrent and disgusting, and a whole plethora of other words that I probably can't say on air, or we risk your FCC license.
Again.
That having been that having been said, countering what the parent is teaching at home is a slippery slope, because we would say, okay, Nazis are evil. I don't think that's a disputable fact. That is known, that is given, should be universally accepted, and the people that don't got something wrong between their ears. Again, though.
Yeah, but remember too, we even today, Robert, you and I know that there are white supremacists out there. There are Holocaust deniers out there. And I am concerned also about the idea that where do you draw the line, the slippery slope thing. I am worried about that. But what do you do with that if you're teaching the kids about the Holocaust and mom and dad are like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Teacher, it didn't exist. That didn't happen. What do you do to that?
That's different, though. We're not talking about a value system that is being imparted or taught. We're not talking about a set of morals or acceptance of a different culture or anything like that. We are talking about a known, provable fact in that point, and that is the purpose of education, is to teach known, provable facts. So you're kind of jumping the shark with that one a little bit. Again, you touched on it earlier. Look, man, if a kid is being abused at home, if a kid is being neglected at home, I have zero issue, none whatsoever, with a teacher stepping in and making a report to Child Protective Services or something along those lines, because the plain and simple fact is that kid is in danger. Okay, but ideology and beliefs don't, in my mind, don't meet that threshold. And for a teacher to do it on the sly, and this will be the last thing I say, and I'll get out of your hair here. For a teacher to do it on the sly, I equate it to this: anytime a grown-up is asking a child to keep a secret, there's probably something wrong.
That's a great way to finish up. Robert from Littleton, thank you for that, man. That'll have to be the last calls. We're out of time. I love the conversations that we had. We'll continue them, not with me tomorrow. That's going to be a guy named Pete Boyles. Tune in for that. Deb at 3, Stefan at 4, but I'll be back Wednesday and Thursday with you for sure. Good luck to Mike Johnson, about to become next mayor of Denver. 710 KNUS.